Hello, welcome to my channel. This wonderful story begins with helping a man in a store. The guy hit his head and got memories. He began to come into drying, but was still in some weightless space. The boy could not understand where he was and what was happening to him. A gray-haired man with a long beard drove a brush along a large vessel, and the guy did not know where to go. His gaze was full of despair and ambiguity. He grabbed his head with his hands and began to scream. Suddenly the boy opened his eyes. He was in bed. Near him there was a girl who asked in order Li. Tan Qian, holding his head with his head, asked the girl what happened to him. The girl asked, he remembers whether he was. And Fu Huni called herself. She explained that he came to her store to get a job today. Tan replied that he remembered as if he had seen some hooligans near her store. Before him surfaced a picture in which the guys began to beat him. The boy remembered that then he lost consciousness. Fu Huni replied that it was, and since he already woke up, she will go and tell the doctor to watch him. The girl asked Tan if he was hungry. The boy, smiling at her, replied that he was not hungry. Suddenly he blushed with his hand by the back of his head. Fu Huni promised to bring him something tasty. Tang remained in the ward watching the rest of the patients. He looked at everyone who was lying in the ward. The guy had a head split. A thin person has a liver disease, lamb and hepatitis. All these diseases can be cured. He needs a tablet of 100 grams of medical honey, also 100 grams of bajie and 100 grams of yellow honey. Mix everything and melt. This can be done on a regular stove and take once a day. Tang did not understand what it was and who said it. Is it really his imagination? The guy decided that someone was talking in his head. But this is impossible. How a strange phenomenon can exist in this world. But from the medical knowledge with which it has this formula for the treatment of liver diseases, it can work. Tan carefully watched one of the people, and he thought that when he looked at him, no voice was heard. Perhaps because he is healthy. Again, some kind of voice whispered to the guy that the man had a fracture of his legs and light skin damage. You can cure by applying a special cooling ointment. Tang grabbed his head again. He put it loudly, so that everyone around turned in his direction. The boy asked for forgiveness. Fu Huni entered the ward and asked Tan Qian whether he was better. The guy replied that he was fine. The girl was delighted and said that she brought him chicken soup. The chicken is very nutritious, and he needs to drink it as soon as possible. The girl began to blow in a spoon and bring her to the guy. She asked him to try a little and say what it tastes. Tan exclaimed that he would do it himself. Then he took a spoon from the girl and began to eat. Fu Huni asked him to protect himself and said goodbye until tomorrow. Tan reciprocated. Tan said that in any case, he is also a medical student and knows well that this small injury is not very serious. Now it is much more important and hard to work to earn money. His father still needs money to cure his illness. Suddenly, someone asked him how he ended up here. It was a beautiful class with Wei Wei. The girl asked him not to call her like that. She does not need such a strange nickname. Then he asked if she was in this hospital. I thought to myself that this was not a nickname. She was the boy's goddess over the past 4 years. With Wei Wei replied that she was now a student in this hospital and again asked what he was doing here. Tan explained that he was not here to study. Then the girl asked not to treat his father. She spoke with the teacher of their school and planned to hold an event to raise funds for them, to collect enough money to treat his father. The boy smiled and thanked the girl for that. She promised to contact him when everything was done. Meanwhile, ambulance vehicles were buzzing on the street. He could not understand what happened. Why are there so many ambulances? Wei Wei replied that something seemed to go wrong. She went forward and told the guy that they would see herself later. People on a stretcher were carried out of the ambulance. One of the patients grabbed the stomach and writhed in pain. The girl on a stretcher lost consciousness. Medbrat asked to immediately send her to the operating room. Tang realized that something happened to this potential. All of them are poisoned or infected. With Wei Wei asked Tan Qian why he was here and why he did not return. Then the boy asked what happened to these people, why so many children are sent to the emergency department. The girl replied that teachers and preschoolers in kindergarten receive food poisoning. Now everything is very bad. With Wei Wei asked the guy if he could do her a favor. Tan Qian replied that of course, without problems. Meanwhile, the children cried in pain, clutching the stomachs. The girl asked to help take care of these children. If he notices something suspicious, she asked him to tell her immediately, and she should give injections to other children. Tan Qian replied that he understood her and began to observe the children. This child has dark blue complexion, dark lips, and lethargy, which is symptoms of poisoning. He started again. This is usually a food poison that causes detoxification. Detoxification can be cured with 50 grams of honey, 6 grams of wine juice, and some other means. The tool for refining can be ordinary clay pots. After the medicine is cooked, it must be taken with warm water 3 times a day, that is, in the morning, in the afternoon, and evening. The course of treatment is 7 days. Is this recipe really useful? It is like in a novel about martial arts. The nurses told Director Van that patients are now in the emergency department. This situation is very sudden, which makes them a little helpless. The doctor asked what caused poisoning. One of the nurses replied that the poison seemed to be in the internal organs of the animal that was eaten. Specifically, the reason for the poisoning is now being clarified. This should be due to those unscrupulous meat sellers. The doctor exclaimed that this is the 3rd case of food poisoning this month, but the last time was more dangerous. Tan Qian realized that in front of him was Professor Van Licia. Dr. Van told the nurse that this child had a disorder of the stomach and asked her to introduce atropine. She gave the girl to take a sample of vomiting and examine him to find out the reason as soon as possible. When the girl opened the door, her name was rather to go inside, since patients with arrhythmia die. The doctor immediately began to run inside the ward. Tan Qian was alarmed in earnest. Something serious happened. He hopes that no one will die. At all costs, he should try a detoxification powder, which can really help. Besides, he can remove all the remaining toxins from the body of children. Tan Qian fled along the street of all his feet. He entered the trading shop and asked to quickly bring him these ingredients. The girl replied that she would try to do everything quickly. And now the boy was already running back to the hospital with a huge bag of drugs. Wei Wei asked him where he was. Didn't he say that he would help her take care of patients? Tan Qian, wiping the drops of sweat from his face, and said that he had business. He asked if she had a bottle of water. Then the girl replied that it was her bottle of water. Does he want a drink from her? Tan Qian said that he did not want to, but he will borrow her for a couple of minutes. She used Wei Wei. In high school, many guys would like to drink from her bottle, but now is not the time to think about it. There are much more important things. Wei Wei asked Tan Qian to look after one patient. She wanted to call Dr. Van. The boy immediately agreed to look after the girl and went to the hospital bed. The patient began to cough. Tan Qian noticed that she was worse and she was dying. The guy decided that he had to try something. He diluted some potion in a bottle and brought to the girl's mouths. After he gave it to this medicine, Tan Qian asked if she was in order if his remedy was working. The girl began to cough, spitting out some bad liquid from her mouth. Tan Qian was frightened that she was only worse, but the girl gradually began to recover. Approaching closer, he asked if she was in order. The boy noticed that her face had changed. It seems she is already much better than a detoxification powder and is really effective. The divine doctor really exists in his head. Perhaps he will be able to cure his father. Wavy called Dr. Van. They flew into the ward with lightning speed. The girl showed the patient to the doctor, but when they came closer, they were very surprised. Wei Wei asked what was with her. Is she really fine? How she was able to suddenly recover? The doctor went to the apparatus to measure the girl pressure. Wei Wei told her that it was very strange, because a minute ago she looked like he was dying. It is not clear how she got better. Her lips became red, her pulse is normal, and in general everything is fine. The patient said that she feels good, but she's still dizzy a little. Dr. Van replied that she ate something wrong. It's good that it came out. She invited the girl to rest a little, lie down. The nurse suddenly opened the door and told Dr. Van that Dr. Xiao was calling her. There, 5 children lost consciousness. Dr. Van immediately replied that she was already coming. She told Wevy that the patient had pulled out, she must be dehydrated, and asked her to put her dropper with saline. If the patient's condition worsens, immediately calling her. The girl thought it was strange. When she was brought here, she was one of the most serious cases of poisoning, how she was able to recover on her own. Tan Qian asked Wei Wei feel the smell of Chinese medicine. The girl closed her eyes and began to sniff, and really it was the smell of herbs. The boy explained that he tried to drink her a little with a Chinese medicinal decoction, but he did not expect that she would feel better. He proposed to give this medicine to other patients, since he has a detoxification effect. Wevy was surprised. Did he really want to say that with this Chinese decoction he was able to alleviate the symptoms of poisoning? Where did he get such a good Chinese medicine? Tan Qian explained that his grandfather gave him a recipe. In a Mio tree, his grandfather was a specialist in traditional Chinese medicine. He also conducted a study on detoxification of poisoned patients. The boy said to Mo Weevive that it is important to save people, and he proposed to use this drug of detoxification and cure other poisoned patients. The girl was very surprised and of course agreed. Tan Qian went to one of the children and gave him a decoction. He promised the boy that he would feel better after this medicine. Then he asked Wei not to tell anyone that he gave her drugs of detoxification. If someone asks, then let him say that this is a prescription of the traditional Chinese medicine of the doctor who wants to remain unknown. And the girl asked if she had heard that patient. She can tell about it. The boy replied that everything was in order. She was dizzy and maybe she did not hear them at all. He thought that people should not know the truth, otherwise they would make a laboratory rat out of it. Then some nurse was near the door and noticed that he was singing a child with something. The girl opened the door and asked what he was doing. That, he gave him a drink. The boy turned to the nurse and replied that he had given him medicine. And the nurse asked what kind of medicine. Did he not know that they could not just take and use any medicine? Tan Qian replied that this Chinese medicine is treating well. The severe patient helped. If she does not believe, she can go into emergency assistance to the 2nd floor. The nurse was at a loss and asked what he was talking about, as a Chinese medicine can have such an effect. Then I asked how he got here. After all, he does not work here. At this time, the boy began to cough and spill something from his mouth. The nurse exclaimed that he was vomiting and he only got worse. She accused Tan Xian of this. The guy began to explain that after that he should become better. He must give this medicine to other children too. But the nurse grabbed his hand and said that she would not allow him to do this. Then she called the guard. A man ran into the ward and asked what happened. The nurse asked the guard to bring out this guy. She explained that he had given the patient with something. After that, the guard dragged the guy from the room. Tan Qian did not stop saying that he was wrong, and he, in turn, saves people here. After this medicine, all children will be in order. He can ask his classmate Mo Wei. She also uses this medicine to save people. The guard replied that he would come out of here with him, and let not say how the doctor needs to treat the patient. He thinks he is still a student, so he does not want to be rude with him. Then, unexpectedly, someone asked them to stop immediately. Dr. Vaughn appeared in front of them. She was very serious and self-confident. The nurse told Dr. Van that she had come on time, and she explained that here some guys secretly watered patients with Chinese medicines. The doctor replied that she understood everything and turned to the boy. Looking at him, she asked his name. The guy replied that his name is Tan Qian. Since the Tang and Qian dynasty are like modesty, Tan Qian thought that Van Licia is a real goddess in everyone's hearts. She does not only have a beautiful face, but also a noble, elegant temperament, as well as excellent knowledge and high medical literacy. He used to dream that he would introduce himself to her in a dream, hoping to talk with her. But Professor Van is busy, and not an ordinary student, a doctor like him. He did not expect that she would stand in front of him at such a moment. The doctor asked how he received the Chinese medicine that he gave to patients. The boy replied that the medicine was brought with wave eye. He heard that the recipe was from an unknown old Chinese doctor. Perhaps the old doctor of Chinese medicine refused to reveal his true personality. The doctor asked whether it was true. Mo Weiwei really told her the same thing that the boy explained to her. Does he know how she was shocked when she saw a dose of Chinese medicine, which could cure the patient in the blink of an eye? At first she could not believe it until the facts appeared before her. This is definitely unusual Chinese medicine. If it is used correctly, it can be a salvation for all patients. The doctor explained that her ancestors really studied Chinese medicine, and she also studied it a lot. She found that Chinese medicine is deep and difficult for understanding. Now, when this medicine is available for the treatment of patients, they will finally be able to breathe calmly. Tan Qian invited the doctor to give patients medicines and talk later. Dr. Van immediately ordered to quickly give medicine to all patients. The nurse who suspected the guy asked him for forgiveness. She explained that she was not so understood. The medicine that he brought is really very good. Tan Qian answered the girl that she also cares about sick patients, so she stopped him. This medicine has nothing to do with him. He only helped to accept him. Meanwhile, in the chambers, medical personnel have already distributed medicines to patients. Doctors and nurses watered children with this magical healing decoction. Dr. Van told Mo Weiwei that the condition of the patients has stabilized, and now you can allow visits. Parents, sisters, and brothers of sick children immediately rushed from the corridor. They asked if everything was all with their children, after which the doctors were cordially thanked for saving their children. The chief doctor sat at his table in his office and asked Professor Van if it was all. The girl replied that she saw everything with her own eyes, and this could not be a fake. The detoxification powder taken by 2 patients had a magical effect of detoxification. This is an impeccable recipe for treating patients with food poisoning, and it is very good against this disease. The man asked, according to the doctor, a student named Tan Qian is not at all a orderly in their hospital and is not included in their list. According to video recordings from cameras, the medicine was not prepared by Mo Weiwei, but was brought precisely by this guy. That is, the medicine of detoxification was given to them. Dr. Van replied that they said that the powder of detoxification was not their own prescription, but he was given to them by an old Chinese doctor who asked not to name his name. The director replied that the initially uncontrolled state was decided using traditional Chinese medicine. If the medicine was really transmitted by the secret old Chinese doctor, they must find it and learn from him. The doctor said that they could not talk about the origin of old Chinese medicine, since the other side does not want to reveal a true personality, since they do not trust others. But how they can allow them to leave without giving them their due. The director exclaimed that in this case they should find a way to find out who this old Chinese doctor is. That makes a miraculous medicine. They have no selfishness, and they will not harm him. They must take this into account. Dr. Vaughn, Mo Weiwei are close to each other, and he leaves this business in their hands. The girl tilted her head down and answered the director that she would try to find out everything. Meanwhile, Tan Qian was already approaching a neurological specialized hospital. Since there was a yin recipe in his head, and yang can be used to get rid of poison in the body of a patient in need of emergency care, there should be a recipe that can be useful for the treatment of his father's disease. When he sees him, he will be able to get a prescription for the treatment of his father's disease. The boy ran that there was urine, wanting to see Dad as soon as possible. He reassured himself and persuaded just following him. The father had kidney failure of the middle and late stage. The face of this patient is grayish-brown, and the flesh in this part collapsed slightly. In addition, the hair is white and dry, and alopecia is swelling and edema. The disease penetrated through the ointment, and ordinary drugs can only reach the standard level. There is no way to turn everything back. If he wants to cure him and eliminate bloating and edema, the only way to use Qi energy. The main medicine is given: low-grade medicinal herbs of the Hyangea, grass of souls, rhubarb, chanbei. Refining tools can be used by a regular furnace. After that, the course of treatment will be 7 days, several times a day, and the main cause of the disease will be eliminated. These medicinal herbs at first glance seem to be something from a fantastic novel. This does not exist in real life where he will find them. If medicinal materials are not found, then the so-called primary remedy of Qi cannot be improved. In ancient China, Chinese medicine called this bloating and edema, so there was nothing wrong with that. And renal failure reached such a point that it has become a disease. Ordinary medicines were useless, and most of them were conservative to influence the condition. Although he does not know what medicinal herbs are given in the formula, this recipe is true, so that there is still hope. Suddenly, a girl appeared in the doorway. She saw Tang Qian and was delighted that he was here. The boy immediately recognized her sister. She asked how he was doing at work. The boy replied that everything was fine, and he earned a lot of money in a month, and also sold food to pay for the treatment of his father. He can also find a part-time job for part-time work to earn extra money. The girl replied that it was great, but there is no one too tired. His brother is paralyzed, so he is the main support of their family. He cannot get sick no matter what. Otherwise, he and her mother really do not know what they will do. The girl took out the money and explained to her brother that this money was for him. The sister explained that this is the money that she borrowed from her parents. It gives them so that it uses them to pay for treatment. Tan Kian exclaimed, turning to the daughter-in-law, which was not needed. He has enough money to pay. But the girl replied that she was his daughter. In law, he is her father, and they are all members of one family of Tan, so she asks to accept them. Tan Qian thought that after the elder brother Tan Lian was paralyzed in a car disaster, and her family said that he was now useless and refused him, but his daughter-in-law stayed with him. And now his father was again aggravated by the disease, after how much she had to go through to lend this money. Tan Qian thought that the daughter-in-law is very kind to their family, and he would pay her 10 times more in the future and reward her. Meanwhile, a man was sitting in the office. He noticed that Tan Qian came and asked how he was here. The boy asked Professor Huan what happened. The man invited him to sit down first, and he will tell everything. He began to show the guy the results of a medical examination of his father, which they had just done. He must understand what is written in the report. His father's condition is very bad. Tan Qian began to look at the report. He asked the master Huan if he should not have a way to help him. He always believed that their hospital could cure his father's disease. The master replied that they were making every effort, but they could not do anything about it. He also studies medicine, so he must know what the state of his father's illness and how much he can live. It all depends on how its renal failure will progress. And now there are different huge light high-rise buildings in front of us. Tan Qian went into the room and headed towards the girl. He greeted Miss Fu, explaining that he had come. The girl was delighted and asked if he was in order. Why did he leave the hospital without saying a word? The boy thanked and answered the girl that everything was in order with him. He wanted to ask if she wanted him to work here. Miss Fu replied that she wanted. He is such a good person, and his salary is already waiting for him. After which the girl handed him some kind of envelope. Tan Qian was very surprised. The girl explained that there are 3,500. This is his salary in the first month, and for 1,500 he can buy a medicine. In the end, he was injured, so he needs to recover. Tan Qian replied that everything was fine, and it was an easy injury. How can she give him a salary if he has not yet begun to work? The girl asked him not to be so kind. She knows that his father has a disease and asked to just take this money. The boy immediately thanked the girl. Miss Fu said that she would work with a calm soul. He will help her collect and remove things in the store, and sometimes order some products. Their store usually opens at 9 and closes at 5-6. If he has problems, he will be able to leave early. She will let him go without unnecessary questions. The boy replied that of course, without problems. And suddenly, his gaze fell on some kind of smoker that stood at the girl on the table. She explained that this was an ancient alchemical furnace on which he came across yesterday. Tan Qian approached the ancient alchemical furnace. His gaze was very gambling and surprised, since this furnace for alchemy, the old divine doctor who appeared in his head, should be connected with this furnace. The boy asked Miss Fu how much she sells this alchemical stove. The girl asked if he liked this stove. Tan Qian replied that he was very fascinated by her. Can she sell it to him? Miss Fu said that since he likes her so, let her take her. She will give her just like that. But the boy said that it was a stove from the store, how he could get it for just like that. He asked to say how much it costs. Even if he can't afford it now, he will pay later when he has enough money. The girl immediately agreed and said that he could pay when she dealt with his problems. It's okay if this is not so soon. Tan Qian replied that he would soon give everything. And then the boy packed this wonderful stove in the paper. He went to his house thinking about the events that occurred to him the day before. No matter how he looks at it, she looks like an ordinary stove, but he feels some kind of weak aura. Tan Qian lay on his bed and began to read some book. He thought, could it be that all this was caused by a miracle? The boy closed his eyes and began to fall asleep, putting his book next to him on the sofa. Then, unexpectedly, the alchemical stove began to sparkle. Tang Qian seemed to feel something. He opened his eyes. There was a lot of bright flame around him. The boy could not understand what was happening. Where he is, he could not get out of here. Tan Qian began to scream for help, for help. He was very hot. Tan Qian did not stop screaming. He opened his eyes after he felt a bright hot flame around. He jumped up on the edge of the bed. Tan Qian could not understand what it was. He thought he would die now. Is it all a dream? This dream was very terrible and realistic. Then someone suddenly knocked on the door. The boy went to the door and opening her a girl in front of him. It was Tao's sister. She appeared in front of the guy in a rather serious form. After that, Tan Qian wished her good morning. The girl replied that she did not want to be rude with him, but his rent is delayed for too long. If he really cannot pay for the apartment, then just let him go from here. She has no time for this. Tan Qian asked his sister Tao a delay. He can write a debt receipt that he will pay everything completely. The girl began to scream that this is no longer possible. If in a week he will not pay for the apartment again, he will ask someone to throw all his things. The girl asked not to be angry even more, and if she wants to stay here, then let her pay for rent. She came to him so close that the guy squinted her eyes. He could not understand what was happening. It feels like he sees this girl not in clothes but naked. Tang Qian closed his eyes and thought that this was all an illusion. This should not be true. Tao's sister began to get nervous and asked why he was staring at. Isn't he married? How you can be so unscrupulous? Then the boy took his head with his hand and replied that he was not married. Tao said that the woman who lives with him is not his wife. Everyone says that she is narrowed. The boy began to explain to the girl that this is all not true. He asked her not to listen to this nonsense because she was just his daughter-in-law. The situation is exactly the way, and if she does not believe him, she can go to the hospital and check. After these words, the girl began to apologize to the guy for pressing him. She thought that he simply did not want to pay rent, but it turned out that he had problems. If she knew, she would not ashamed him. The girl asked not to think badly about her. Tan Qian replied that everyone was saying that the sister of Tao is kind and attentive. So, he would like to ask her to give him time. He will pay her right away, as he will have enough money. The girl said that she believes him. Therefore, let him make money to cure his father. and the rent is not urgent. She will no longer remind her. Tan Qian thanked the girl and said goodbye to her. After she left, the boy thought about how his eyes had just been able to react so. Was it really hallucinations? Then he saw his book in front of him on the bed. When he looked at her, he saw the contents of a closed notebook. Is this not an illusion? Now he can see through things. He had X-ray vision. He has a legendary vision. He can see through things. The boy held a notebook in his hands and glanced at the alchemical stove. This situation must be somehow connected with an alchemical furnace, like a fire from his sleep. This alchemical furnace is some kind of magical. It is really unusual. It seems that he will not be able to store her here, and he thought that he should return this stove back to the Miss Fu antique store. Tan Qian went to Antique Street to find Miss Fu. The girl immediately greeted the guy. He reciprocated her. But before he had time to say, and the words, as looking at her froze and opened his eyes very widely, he saw Miss Fu completely naked. Under the dress, the girl's were large breasts. His head began to boil and his face suddenly blushed. He should not look there. It is obscene. The ability to see through objects cannot be used to look at the female body. Miss Fu looked at the guy in surprise. She noticed that old copper stove in his hands, and she asked why he brought her back to the bench. Tan Ka explained that with the guard in the house, which he does not rent very much, if such an expensive thing is stolen, it will be very unpleasant. Therefore, he decided to leave her here in the shop, and he asked if she was objecting. Miss Fu replied that of course he could leave her in a warehouse without any problems. This is the most protected room. And by the way, if he wants, he can stay here and look after the bench at night. She would be very grateful. Tan Qian immediately agreed. He asked Miss Fu where he put this box. The girl began to think. Then I realized that this was a very old vase. Tan Qian exhaled and sat down on a chair. He said that he had finally finished cleaning, and I thought that besides how to spy on beautiful women, he needs to find where else to apply this new ability. Is it worth it to use his abilities in gambling and watching the cards of other players to win? Crossing his arms on his chest, he decided that no gambling games. You can't do this. Besides, it is also illegal, but he can buy lottery tickets and win a lot of money. Buying a lottery ticket is legally, and he will win the money honestly. Then he will go immediately after dinner and buy one ticket. Meanwhile, the shop seller was bored in the room. He met his younger brother and exclaimed that his brother was first in his lottery store. He greeted the guy in a happy lottery, and he explained that he had come to the right address. They already have countless winners. Last week, his old friend won the first prize of 500,000 yuan, and he asked his brother what kind of lottery he wants to try. They have two-tone balls, lotto, as well as tickets with a protective layer, erasing which he receives his prize. Tan Qian thought, after which he chose the latter. The man laughed and said that he recommends him this option. Many people win a video of the draw in this. Even his friends won 1,000 yuan. The boy picked up a ticket and began to focus. He was convinced that he could see the contents. Tan Qian set off this ticket and told the seller that alas, this would not suit him. Tan Qian began to sort through tickets one by one. When he went through the whole mountain of tickets, he realized that none of them was yet suitable for him. Many pieces of paper were crossed by his hands. The ticket seller carefully watched the guy. Others consider only a ticket number. Even if he will buy them today, you need to take several at once. But the way he has been holding a ticket in his hands for a long time, it seems that he can see what is written there. Tan Qian held another ticket in his hands, on which there was nothing. But there was something on the other. Some guy went into the room and noticed that this brother was a little confused. He asked if he buys lottery tickets or just admires them. Maybe he thinks that this is some kind of art. The seller answered Brother Binya that he does not understand. There are different ways to play the lottery, as well as its ancient method. They do not have much time to carefully consider each of these tickets. Bin exclaimed that this is true. However, this is the first time he sees someone who is so much interested in the lottery. Tan Chien said that they may be sure that he would buy a ticket from them, and he asked if he could see a few more tickets. The seller, holding his head, smiled and replied that there were no problems, and he could do it. Ben asked the big head to give him a couple of pieces. He decided to do like this dude. Maybe this method is more effective and it will be able to win much more valuable prizes. The seller asked his brother Binja what exactly he wanted to buy. The guy replied that he would play the Zodiac lottery. The large-headed seller exclaimed that there was no problem and asked him to choose well. But Bin, sorting out the tickets, sighed and said that he would not choose any of this. Tan Chien focused on the tickets of that guy. Is it a big prize? Tan Chien asked him to make a deal with him and asked if he could sell him this lottery ticket. Just do not need to wash the protective layer, as he himself wants to do it. After all, the guy does not risk anything. Ben asked if he really liked his ticket. The seller said that it might be due to the fact that the last ticket of his brother Ben looks rather neat and has a collective value, and that is why he attracted the attention of this guy. Ben told Tan Chien that this ticket is not antique. Why is he such an opinion about this ticket? Maybe he is one of those antiques that evaluate tickets directly. The boy replied that this has nothing to do with antiques. He was just interested. But the guy could not understand why he was so suddenly interested in this ticket. He has been playing a lottery long ago, but has never met such an interesting person as him. How he chooses tickets is very unusual. Tan Chien thanked him for the compliment. He asked if he would sell this ticket. Ben answered the guy that if he really wants him, he would give him to him. Since this Zodiac lottery, he will have to pay for it. And he demanded 200 from the boy. He decided that it would be enough. The seller said that the offer of Brother Binya is really not bad. It is much more economical to buy such a work of art for 200 yuan. When he wins, he realizes the value of this lottery ticket. Tan Chien exclaimed that he was buying them. And then the deal took place. The boy took a whole pack of tickets and asked the boss whether he could buy these lottery tickets and erase them at home. The seller replied that of course he could take any. He wished the guy to win a large prize. He is already waiting when the guy comes to exchange them for prizes won by him. After Tan Chien bought tickets, he headed for the exit from the building. The seller called the guy an idiot because he paid 10 times more for the same lottery. If such people will buy a lottery, sooner or later, they will go broke. According to estimates, buying lottery tickets, a person becomes obsessed with these winnings and eventually loses everything that he has. Tan Chien held in his hands a bag of tickets and told Miss Fu that he had already returned. The girl looked at him with interest and asked that it was in his hands. The boy explained that these are all lottery tickets. Miss Fu was very surprised how many lottery tickets he bought. She looked into the bag. Tan Chien explained that there were about 100 tickets. Then she asked how much they were standing. The boy replied who paid 2,000 for them. She was very surprised how he could pay $2,000 for them. This is almost his monthly salary. Why he is so reckless? Because buying lottery tickets as a game. For 10 bets, 9 of them is a loss. It is now not easy for him to make money to pay medical bills. He should not follow this path no matter what. The boy asked the girl not to worry. If this time he won nothing, he would never buy these lottery tickets again. The girl sighed heavily. She invited the guy to see what was in them. She wanted to help the boy deal with tickets, and so he poured a whole bag of pieces of paper on the table. When they figured out the tickets, Tan Chien came from this bunch of papers back to the shop. The seller and brother of Bin opened their mouths. In total, there are 98 tickets, and of them, 79 winning. How he did it? Tan Chien held one of these many tickets in his hands. He lifted it as high as possible so that everyone could see. The seller of the shop was very surprised. 3 mice fell the boy. He grabbed a ticket and exclaimed that this could not be. Brother Bin looked at this guy amazed at his choice and such a huge win. And now the building of the hospital rises in front of us. In one of the chambers lay Father Tan Chien. Near him was a sister. Tan Qian flew into the ward and told his father and daughter-in-law that he had good news for them. He explained that he had earned a lot of money today. The sister replied that he had just found a job. Tan Qian said that this is not the work, but he thought that he should not say that he received the money by winning the lottery. The purchase of lottery tickets will no doubt sound as if he had been involved in all sorts of gambling. Tan Qian explained that he opened a small business with his old classmates. Luck smiled at them and he managed to get 30,000. Father immediately jumped up with his hands on a hospital bed, surprised at such a huge amount. The girl began to cry and tell her father that Tang Qian earned so much money. He was able to earn so much at a time. She still does not believe in it. Father replied that making money is important, but he should not be too desperate. After all, the most important thing is his health and, in spite of everything, should not harass himself. The Tang family now has only him. The boy replied that he knows about it. Tan Kian told the daughter-in-law that she recently lost a lot of weight besides black circles under her eyes. She must be very tired. He asked her to go home and relax, but for now he would stay here and take care of his father. The girl replied that she was not tired at all. In addition, he needs to go to work tomorrow. How he can stay here to take care of his father. The boy took the girl by the shoulders and looked into her eyes. He said that if she was tired, he must certainly rest. He will ask you to temporarily look after his father. From today and henceforth, it should rest well. The daughter-in-law immediately agreed and stopped arguing with him. Tan Qian went to the director and sat down opposite him in a chair. He asked Mr. Wan whether his father's pressure stabilized and pulse stabilized. The man thought and replied that he was thinking about this for a long time and decided that it was better to talk to him about it. Tan Qian asked if his father's illness progresses again. Mr. Wan replied that he did not have good news for him. He also knows that the main way to cure his father is to carry out a kidney transplant. However, finding a suitable donor is not so easy. Many people have been waiting for several years. The good news is that a suitable donor for his father has already been found, but not only his father was in line. But if he wants to take this transplant, then you need to apply. To begin with, he must know that all surgical expenses cost a lot of money. He must guarantee payment, at least for the main medical expenses. Tan Qian replied that he had to apply for this operation. The doctor asked if he would find a way to make money. The boy asked to give him a little time, and he would definitely collect the entire necessary amount. He asked Dr. Juan to help him use this opportunity. The man asked the kid not to worry, as he will help him with all this. The doctor told the guy to raise money, then he will apply for this kidney. He will help him get her, but the time is limited, so he needs to hurry. Tan Qian thought that today he received 30,000, having bought lottery tickets, so that it will not be difficult for him to collect another 500,000. Approaching home, the boy thought that the daughter-in-law went to sleep to her home. Today he can spend the night here and hopes that the neighbors will stop dissolving all sorts of rumors about them. Tan Qian closed his eyes standing in front of an alchemical stove. Then he returned to his bed and quickly fell asleep. He saw a dream in which the alchemical stove made some fragrance. The thin blue haze of smell enveloped the guy. Then he again found himself in a bright hot flame of fire. Has it really started again? He got into another dimension? Tan Qian was very hot. The streams of sweat flowed down his face. The boy screamed again, as the heat was just unbearable. Tan Qian did not expect him to survive this dream again. In hot sweat, the guy suddenly woke up. He tried to understand what happened. Is it really the same dream again? He tilted his head down with cold water. Then he went to the mirror and looked at himself. He looked into something in his eyes. His pupil became different, not at all like a human. Is this not the eye of the fiery sun Ukon, the king of monkeys? It was a symbol of the chemical furnace. Taishan Laojun pushed him into this alchemical stove. He burned in the fire of the furnace for several nights in a row to get a couple of gold fiery eyes. It is wonderful. The fiery eyes of the king of monkeys can see through anything. They can also see the demons of ghosts. It was worth that pain and dreams. The boy squeezed his fists, rejoicing in what happened. Tan Qian said Miss Fu that today he was going to see his father, and he asked for permission to finish early with work. The girl immediately agreed, and she said that although it was her store, he does not need to be so polite with her. Now she asked to call her sister at. The boy asked in this case to call him Zhao Qian. Tan Qian thought that he had come out so early not to go to the hospital, and in order to buy more lottery tickets. The boy went into the shop, where he was immediately greeted by the ticket seller. Serving one-by-one lottery tickets, Tan Qian found only one winning ticket. It does not look like there are still standing here. He must check the remaining stores with lottery tickets. And rather, he ran to the lottery street. There should always be big winnings. Entering the shop, he told boss that he needed lottery tickets. Just in this shop, he won 1,000 yuan. Tan Qian was upset his head. He visited many lottery stores but won only 4,000 yuan. How much time does he need to collect 500,000 for medical expenses? The boy went to the ward and told his father that he had already come. Opening the door, he saw a lot of people in the ward. Professor Van was there too. She greeted Tan Qian. Tan Qian, lowering his head, asked Professor Van how she was doing. Then the doctor turned to him. She asked for permission to examine his father. Thanks to him, the same incident with poisoning in their hospital was decided. The boy replied that he just helped a little. He reminded with Wave that she was saying something about donations, and he asked if they were collected. The girl exclaimed that this is a good idea, and they can start with the next Thursday. Mo Wei asked him to leave. She needs to talk to him about something. The girl explained that she needed him to be present there by that time. Tan Qian asked her when she came here with Professor Van whether her professor asked her about the origin of that powder from poisoning. Mo Wei replied that she did not know. In general, she came alone. They just met her along the way here. Tan Qian asked if she told him the truth. After all, he asked her to preserve this secret from them. The girl began to get nervous and exclaimed that if she promised to keep it secret, then she would keep her promise. But Professor Van asked her about it many times, as if they attach great importance to this. Then a doctor appeared in the doorway. Looking at the kid, she asked if he could have a few words. The girl explained to Tan Qian that through Dr. Huan she found out about his father's condition, and also the fact that he needs money for this operation. She also understands what situation he ended up in. Money for the operation is not what he can afford to himself now. Tan Qian replied that in spite of everything, he would do everything in his power. The girl said that he has a desire and it is very touching. She hopes that his father will be able to get this operation. The boy thanked the girl, looking into her eyes, but she replied that they should thank him. The medicine that he brought that day to serve all the patients who were poisoned then. Tan Qian answered the girl that the medicine was not his. It was a prescription from the old doctor of Chinese medicine, which can be obtained at any pharmacy. Professor Van asked why then she heard about something completely different. She was told that his grandfather prescribed this medicine for him. The boy asked who she heard from. The professor explained that from the first patient, whom he saved on that very day. Tan Qian decided that this was bad, so she still heard everything. He asked for permission to tell her the truth. This medicine has nothing to do with his grandfather. He received the recipe from the old doctor of Chinese medicine. He told him only because Mo Wei trusts him. Then the professor asked if he could give her any contacts of this old doctor. The boy replied that this was impossible. He assured him that his personality would not be disclosed. The girl said that while he will transfer recipes to them, they will be responsible for the costs of transplanting the kidney of his father. The boy was surprised by such a turn of events, and he thought that he could see through things and use it when buying lottery tickets. Mo Wei also helps him with donations, but even after that he is still unknown whether he can collect 500,000. The professor again asked the guy what he was thinking about it. They are quite sincere. Tan Qian asked the professor if she needed only prescriptions of medicine. The girl replied that everything is right. They do not want to use it or this recipe for their own benefit. They just want to be prepared in advance to save a lot of lives so that he should understand this. Tan Kine explained that he needs to talk to this doctor, and only in this way he will be able to give an exact answer. He decided to think during this time what to do correctly. A girlfriend of a guy asked him who this woman was. Is she not his class teacher? Tan Kine explained that she was also a doctor in City Central Medicine. Her medical skills are the best. He admires her very much. The girl replied that she was very good, so worried about him that she came to visit her father and brought him a lot of gifts. Tan Qian said that she was sweet, and I thought that most likely she came here only for the sake of detoxification powder. He decided to see if he could collect 500,000 in this week. If possible, then he does not want to help them with recipes, and if he starts now, it is not known how many problems he will receive after that. Tan Qian lay on his bed and thought that there would be a flame in his dream, and so he closed his eyes and turned out to be as he thought. The next day came. Tan Qian opened the door and told the sister Imone that he had come. Meanwhile, the guys figured out that they could not leave it just like that. How Miss is going to pay. The girl asked them to leave. One of the guys noticed Tan Qian. Then he took him by the breasts and a fight started. The boy thought that these are the bastards that came to the store earlier and arranged troubles. Tan Qian closed the girl with himself and asked what they were doing here. One of the guys called him a boy. He thought that Tan Qian was healing that day, and he asked how he feels now. The second guy told Brother Lu that the boy mighted that day was dead that day to avoid a fight with them and ran away home. The girl screamed that she would call the police. The police are still looking for him. If he creates unnecessary problems for her, then all of them will be arrested immediately. After these words, the guys laughed amicably. Their laughter was heard throughout the street. The guys could not restrain themselves and laughed so that they were already bending, holding the stomachs. Lei answered the girl that if she calls the police, he too. Let him look at his nose. He has a serious fracture. After all, they do not know who she or he beat. Tan Qian exclaimed that it was self-defense. He should not cause problems here because of this. And he really attacked the first. The guy exclaimed that in any case this boy hit him. He cannot just leave it. Tan Qian asked what he wanted then. Lei began to explain that compensation for all medical expenses, as well as for psychological trauma, operation on the correction of his nose bridges and subsequent costs. In total, he lost 300,000. If he does not pay everything during this week, he will suffer. Tan Qian clamped in his fists, but the girl stopped him. The boy was very angry and asked him not even to dream of it. But the enemy replied that he was giving him a good chance, and he demands to just pay money from him. Or he wants to die. Let him believe him or not, but he can die in a matter of minutes. Suddenly, someone called them out and asked what they were doing here. The guys turned together. Howard stood in front of them. The guys immediately laughed and told his brother Hao that this meeting was very unexpected. But Hao asked them what they were doing here. The booth is bred in someone's store, and again, disagree. Miss Fu is his friend, so he advised them not to get into trouble because of this. Lei immediately grabbed his head, and smiling said that they were here only to buy antiques. Hao replied that if so, then everything is fine. Miss Fu's father is a very famous figure in industry. Since she decided to open a store in the South, this is an honor for them. If they intimidate her, then he will not spare them. Lei exclaimed that he did not know that Miss Fu had a master in this area. They really did not know this. They arrived in the Jianzhou area to develop it, then in the future they will be more careful. Miss Fu introduced Tan Qiana Lindsay Hao, the owner of the Imperial Hall of Treasures. Tan Qian recently in this industry, so if he has problems with something, he can ask him for advice. Tan Qian shook his hand and asked to take care of him in the future. Miss Fu introduced him to Tan Qian, and she explained that she only hired him recently. Lin Zihao replied that he would not dare to teach him something, since it is better to study from each other. The party of Jade, which they wanted to arrive, Uncle Hai asked to convey that they examine and test the goods. If there are no problems, then they can take it. The girl replied that she believes Uncle Hai. In Zhangzhou, he is the best friend of her father. She also believes his vision, so that there is no problem with the fact that he sends or receives. Miss Fu asked Tan Xianya to go with Mr. Lin in Yubao Tan and pick up those jade artifacts. The guy immediately agreed. Then they headed to the destination. Tan Kan was very surprised by this huge bright building. Lin invited the guy to go inside. Tan Kai immediately thanked him and headed for the door. His surprise had no bounds. He did not stop admiring this shop. He exclaimed that there is everything so large and so much antiques. Lin introduced the boy, Uncle Hai. He explained to his uncle that Miss Fu wanted him to meet this young man. Tan Qian immediately greeted his uncle. He asked if the guy on Fu Niwan Shifangia works. Tan Qian replied that yes, but he recently began to work with her. Before that, he had never done anything like that. Uncle said that it does not matter. Now there are many promising beginners. No one knows everything from birth if he is a young future endlessly. The boy immediately thanked his uncle, smiling at him. They continued to sit at the table, supporting the conversation. Tan Qian thought that people who deal with antiques are more serious and non-original, although after the conversation he realized that they were kind to others. Fu Yimun, Lin Zihao, and Uncle Hai, everyone treats him so well. The boy looked at his uncle and noticed that his complexion is yellowish, his eyes are dark, and the skin is dry. Blue veins are visible around the nose. Obviously, he is sick. Looking at his complexion, he thinks that he has a liver disease. As it turned out, Uncle Hai is sick. It is not surprising why he looks so bad. Although the disease is not so serious, but if you leave everything as it is unattended, this can lead to poor consequences. If you want to get rid of this disease, you just need to use the Hugin pill. This is an ordinary elixir. It is necessary to mix all the ingredients and use as a medicine. To make this pill, you can use ordinary medical vessels. After refining, it is necessary to undergo a course of treatment, which includes a diet and rejection of alcohol. Only then will he be able to recover without relapse. Tan Qian thought it was a cure for liver disease. He must remember that it will be very useful in the future. Tan Qian asked Uncle Hai how he feels. Does something hurt him? Uncle replied that recently he began to disturb the old stomach disease. This caused a lot of problems, but it does not bother him. Sometimes it hurts, but then the pain still passes. The boy was surprised if it was an old stomach disease. Wouldn't this be a liver disease? How can it be a disease of the stomach? The stomach and liver are located in the upper abdomen and are located next to each other. Therefore, many people have pain in the upper abdomen. Usually, everyone thinks that this is a stomach disease. Without the correct drug, the disease will not be cured. The condition of the liver will only aggravate. Uncle explained that he had this disease from his youth. For 30 or 40 years he has been living with her. He is already used to all these years. The man asked if the guy knew some medicine. Tan Qian replied that he could only say a little. He was a student of a medical university, but went to receive a diploma. Uncle asked why he did not return. The study of medicine is very promising. Tan Qian replied that some family circumstances had arisen, so that he could not do anything, only quit his studies. He invited Uncle Hu to undergo an examination of his liver to find out if there are any problems. Of course it would be better not to. But if he finds something, who can cure it on time? The uncle was surprised that the guy could make a diagnosis with only one glance, as he saw that he had a liver disease. Tan Qian asked his uncle what alcohol. Surely he loves to drink. Uncle laughed and replied that when he was young, he loved to drink and drank a lot. He has the norm to drink several liters for food. Tan Qian said that alcohol harms the liver if you consume too much, then it will definitely affect it negatively. If his skin was yellowish, then this would be connected with the liver. It is necessary to be checked. Uncle replied that after hearing his proposal, he thinks that he really needs to allocate time to go to the hospital. This is just a medical examination in order to see it is sick, but whether it is or not. If not, then he will definitely be sure of that. How? Notice that this guy had very good vision, and Chuika, he even knew how to accurately determine the problem, which was not easy. Uncle asked Hao to go to bring a jade artifacts, which Fu Ayun wanted to take them to Tang Qian. The guy immediately obeyed his Uncle Hai and brought all the necessary items. Uncle explained that these jade artifacts were brought from Pinzhou to help Imon. Most of them are green jadeites, but there are also nephritis of Hatian and Lantan. Jade the most beautiful, despite the fact that it is just a stone that lay for tens of thousands of years underground. This is how jade is formed, but depending on the conditions, they are different. Different are not only color but also the texture and shape of the stone itself. Then some guy came in and said that jade here. He explained that he had already tried to clean one. He stands on the fact that everyone is good. Tang Qian immediately inspired and asked whether he really asked. The guy invited him to look and put the stone on the table. Tang Qian came closer to him and began to look at him. He thought about whether it was in stone. Isn't it like the texture of ice jade? The guy replied that there was a small admixture inside. Although it does not reach the level of the ice of ice, this is also not bad. This is a type of ice-sticky stone. In addition, the color is also good. He had not worked with such a good piece of jadate for a long time. He did not expect that he would find him today. Hao said that he had not met such a beautiful stone for a long time. He had already lost the hope that this batch of stones will be returned. He did not expect that in the end he would make him so beautiful it was worth it. The guy replied that they did not go to Pinzhou for the stones this time. Although all the stones were standing tens of thousands of yuan, this one was the best. He asked Uncle Hai to see how much he could cost. 70,000 or 80? Uncle exclaimed that he was pretty good. The exact price is difficult to determine. In the end, nephritis differs from other stones. He has no exact price. Approximately, it can cost 70,000 or 80,000 yuan. He asked why the guy was this. Does he want to use it as a half table in gambling? The guy replied that, of course not. If you put it on it, then you need to put it completely. Uncle said that now his price does not matter. Gambling on precious stones is not the best activity. Only by completely removing the shell of the stone we can conclude. However, this stone looks good. The probability that it is very valuable quite high. He does not have to take part in this. In general, this type of betting is called the return of the best. There is a great risk of losing. Hao exclaimed that he would tell you more later. He asked Tan Qian for permission to allow these things to return to the store for him. The boy was very surprised, but still agreed. He thought about what Hao said. He was interested in bets on stones. And so the guys taking the artifacts went out into the street, going to their store. Tang Qian asked Mr. Lin what he was talking about earlier, is the stones can really be used in bets. The guy replied that the unprocessed jade was obtained from Myanmar mines, and most of the raw stones are very similar to ordinary stones. If you do not cut the shell of the stone, no one will know a good nephritis there, either a bad one, and they put it on it. Therefore, it is called the stamp. Tan Qian asked if it was difficult to win in it, and is it a big profit from them? Hao replied that of course the profit is very large, but the risks are also large. Stones on stones are such a type of gambling, which is considered legal. Tan Qian asked Hao if there was some kind of catch here. Hao replied that in any case, according to his many years of experience, it seems that there is no such skill to win in it. In this gambling game, experience and skills are not applicable. He thinks that only financial resources and luck are important here. The stone now standing tens of thousands can actually cost less than 500 yuan. However, he spent a lot of money on various stones and never won. so that the probability of winning is not even 1/10. If he does not have enough money, it's better not to try. But of course, he can participate in this, while it is affordable for him. Tan Qian asked if there was such a tool with which it would be possible to see the state of jade through the shell of an unprocessed stone. Hao explained that if such a tool existed, why then endoscopic equipment, such as a gastroscope? The human body is not as dense as that of a stone, but an X-ray can show obvious changes in the surface layer of the human body. Tan Qian realized that in this case only X-ray vision can be seen that inside the stone. Hao laughed and said that if he really has such an ability to look through objects, then he can safely play gambling on stones. He asked what kind of stone he would like to compose. Tan Qian laughed and replied that he did not know yet. After that, the boy thanked the guys and said goodbye to them. He decided that he would earn money by making bets on stones. He will be able to earn a lot of money. Others put on stones relying on luck. He has special eyes. If excellent nephritis is hidden in the stone, it will immediately notice. Miss Fu turned to Tan Qian. The boy stopped and began to listen to the girl. She asked him not to be afraid of these three who created problems today. If they come again, she will not just stand aside. Tan Qian asked the girl if she really thinks that he was afraid of them. They should be afraid of him. Fu understood him and asked him to bring these things inside. Tan Qian told Sister Imone that she would like to ask her something. Is there a jade store on this street antiques, which sells unprocessed jade stones for use in gambling? The girl replied that she did not pay attention to them, but there are many jade shops on the street. However, there are very few shops selling stones for gambling. There should be no special place where such stones are sold. Tan Qian began to ask where they mainly make bets and in which places a large selection of stones. Fu began to explain that mainly in the Pinzhou Jade Market, in Foshan, Guangdong. But there is not always a choice. In the midst of the season, for example, there will be a large supply of stones on the jade market, and it will be able to look at all types. Miss Fu said that she did not play gambling. She heard it from people. The boy thought about it, answered her that he understood everything. And I thought that the most important thing is where you can find a germ of the jade. He will try to look at the stone with X-ray vision. Although it is difficult to determine a good stone, even professionals are often mistaken. But with his eyes, it is possible. Everything is under control. Tan Qian went to some person and apologized to him. The man replied that if he was looking for an unprocessed jade, he can buy it on the other side. The boy looked towards the market and a huge sign. Before he had time to open the door, he was immediately greeted by a guy who had recently been with Uncle Hai. The guy smiled and asked if he needed help. Tan Qian was very surprised how he was here, really this coincidence. The guy also recognized Mr. Tana. Tan Qian exclaimed that this was a coincidence and he did not know that he was working in this store. The guy replied that he has been working in a jade square for several years, and he asked whether Mr. Tan came to look at the jade products. The boy explained that he just came to look around. It seems that his store is fine since even during a break there are so many customers. Then the store employee exclaimed that more and more people are playing bets on jade stones, so the business is flourishing, and he asked for permission to show him everything here. He asked Tan Qian as about these jade stones. The boy exclaimed that they were really good. A shop employee explained that these jade works were made by the teacher Fan. He is their nephritis carvings. Many of his works are considered masterpieces. They also won national prizes. Tan Qian exclaimed that it was great, and he asked, except for finished jade works, whether there were other jade stones in his store. Then the guy seemed to not understand him and asked what he had in mind. Tan can explain that he is talking about the stones that are used in gambling. The guy realized that he had in mind not processed jade stones. Does he really want to take a chance and try good luck? Does he know how one guy relied on a very good jade stone? At the auction, its price reached 100,000 yuan, and the purchase of this stone cost less than 500 yuan. Although he won at that time, he lost more money than he won, and in the end, he did not earn anything. If he had not made bets before, it is better not to take risks. He can lose all the money that he has. Stones are similar to drug intake. In both cases, people lose a lot of money, but if he has a lot of it, then he may not worry if he loses. But he would not recommend him playing such a game. Tan Qian replied that he knows. He is simply interesting. So I wanted to see different types of jade stones. Then the guy said that they have such stones. If he really wants this, then he will not stop him. But if he wins, he will be glad that he had sold a stone to him. And so he brought him to the room. The guy explained that here the stones he was looking for. A room opened in front of him in which there were many stones. The guy explained to him that they were sold by weight. The highest quality stone costs 400 or 500 yuan per kilogram, average quality 300 or 200 per kilogram, and the worst 100 yuan per kilogram. Those on the shelves are considered semi-playing stones. Beginners like it usually start with them. Here is the risk below. Because the difference between loss and winning is not so big. Tan Qian answered him that in this case he would look at them. The guy asked if he just needed to call him. He introduced himself that his name was Jun Lulin, he could call him Urshan. And so Tan Qian came closer to the stones and took one of them in the hand. He decided to start with this stone. And then the guy's gaze immediately changed. This stone seemed to shine in his hands. He realized that it seems to be jade in him. Although he does not know what quality he is, but this is a good beginning. The boy decided to see other stones. It is interesting whether there is still jade here, but his X-ray vision can only see a couple of centimeters in depth. Suddenly, Ershun appeared behind him. He asked if Tan Xian still chooses stones, whether he had chosen at least one stone. Tan Qian felt that this stone would win. He answered Ersunu that he decided to take him when they only entered. Holding the stone to the guy, he asked how he was this stone. Then Ershun asked if he chose him from a pile of ordinary stones. It is really true that most of them are bad. They are of poor quality, so the price of them is also low, so that it will not lose a lot of money if he buys it. Tan Min Dao said, then asked how much he costs. The guy showed how much on his fingers. Tang Qian, looking at him, was very surprised and asked if 4, but Ershun explained that 40 yuan. Tan Qian was even more surprised. Really only 40 yuan. Ershun confidently replied that yes, the brother of Ci Hao and Uncle He, his friends, so he sells these stones. But to be honest, what is the point of buying a stone of non-social quality? He can waste 40 yuan. Tang Qian replied that it does not matter. Even if he loses, he would not lose a lot of money. The boy asked where he could supplant this stone. Urson explained that there are several methods. The first is rubbing, and the second, cutting of stone. Rubbing until a precious stone appears. And the cutting of the stone means dividing the stone into a couple of parts. Since his stone is made of ordinary material, he can simply use the river of stone. The guy explained to Tan Kayana that they have a stone. He can cut his stone when they finish. Then one of the visitors learned in this guy a master of erasing lottery cards. He asked him how he ended up. He bought lottery tickets, and now he buys stones. It looks like he is really a connoisseur of antiques. Tan Qian answered the man that he was here for the first time, and in general he was doing here. The man exclaimed that he was well versed in lottery tickets. He should be very lucky. If he uses his luck, does this mean that he already knows that he won? Urson heard a conversation. He asked a lot of money earned on the lottery. The boy laughed and replied that he was just lucky, and he won a little. But the man asked him not to be modest. He bought 10,000 tickets, and he asked whether he chose a stone that would cut. The boy said that he would feel good luck. Ershun explained that when others finish, he will help him cut a stone. One of the participants said that he bought it for 50,000 yuan, simply to find out that this is the trash. He was disappointed in what he did. He continued to scream that if he knew this before, he would not buy it. Although the stone looks beautiful, it is strange that in the end such a result. It has many impurities, so almost nothing costs. It is really difficult to guess whether there is something valuable in the stone. Ershun told Tan Qian that he cut a stone and there it is clear that the quality of the jade is very low. Therefore, there is nothing valuable in it. Ultimately, the stone can be bet only if the quality is good and the value is high. Tan Qian asked if there was any standard of stones. Ershun replied that in addition, the color of nephritis mainly depends on the ground in which there was a stone and is divided into good and low quality, glass, snowy, wax, grain color, snowty seeds on snow. White seeds are mainly one. Urson invited the guy to cut the stone for him. The man laughed next to him, with the fact that Tan Qian chose an ordinary stone. Obviously, this is shit, and there is nothing valuable there, and it costs 10 yuan. Urson exclaimed that this is an ordinary stone, and it is inexpensive. His friend Tang puts on stones for the first time. He asked the man what he needed. The man replied that he could not even try. Even if he buys a truck of such stones, he will not win anything. Urshun said that not really. Even if the quality of the stone is not high, this does not mean that inside the jade is poor quality. The man suggested in this case to see if he has a high-quality nephritis, then he loses, and if low quality, then he wins. The bet on this is 1,000 yuan, but Urshun replied that he was not arguing. Then the man laughed and exclaimed that they say such loud words and still so sure that high-quality jade can be obtained from that bad stone. Then Tang Qian asked if he loved to argue so much. If so, then he offers to argue on his stone. But 1,000 yuan is too little, it means nothing at all. If he wants to play, then you need to play in a large way. Whether he agrees to the bet 10,000 yuan. Everyone around was very surprised because it was happening here. Who will argue for 10,000? The man did not stop and asked if he wanted to argue with him. Tan Qian replied that the winning or losing all those present would be witnesses. If he loses, he will give him 10,000 yuan immediately, but if he loses, he will have to pay 10,000 yuan. The man agreed. He accepted the challenge. Here all experts and they will monitor the process. No regrets after losing, otherwise they would not be here. Then Urson grabbed the guy by the hand trying to dissuade. He asked him to calm down. Why get involved in a dispute with such as Zhou Xiaobin? He is well known on Antique Street. It is better not to contact him. Tan Qian replied that if that person wants to argue, then he did not mind. Ershun said that he was actually right. The likelihood that in this stone there is a good jade almost equal to 0. Zhou Xiaobin is dangerous, although it seems to be a good person. He advised not to accept the call. Tan Qian thanked Urson for worrying for him, but why he is sure that there is no jade. The chance of winning or losing is 50%. Zhou Xiaobin asked if they had already chatting, and then asked not to regret his decision. The man said that many here for the first time relieved and how he can force him to hold a bet. Around they said that he provoked him. Knowing that he has a bad stone and that the chance of winning is very small, he just wants to earn a lot of money on it. Chu Xiaobin began to explain that he forced him to take a bet while he was quite decisive, saying this. Then some guy asked Zhou Xiaobin whom he is lifting here. He heard that the man is lifting Tan Qian. He is here only recently, so let not dare to pester him. But the man replied that it was impossible for him to lift the new and nothing like that. Since he is his friend, he will be polite with him. Then the guy asked what was happening at all. Zhou Xiaobin said that he was joking when he said that he wanted to argue with Tan Qian that the stone would not have high-quality jade. But he thinks that the guy took him seriously and said that they would argue for 10,000 yuan. All those present convinced him that he had to stop and forget about it. After all, he will regret it when he loses, and he will eventually win. Tan Qian clenched his teeth a little angry. He exclaimed that only he would regret here. Zhu Xiaobin said that he did not care about him and his low-grade stone. If he wants to argue with him, then let him speak directly. Brother Lin asked the guy what he would do. The stone that he bought has no value. He advised not to argue with that person. Tan Qian thanked him and said that he had already thought it over and was ready to argue with 10,000 won. If there is no good quality jade inside this stone, then it will never touch such stones again. Then he turned to Ersin and asked him to cut a stone for him. Then Ersyun asked his brother Lin what to do. The guy replied that if he really wants it, let him cut. Ersin understood him and began to cut a stone. Tan Qian asked him to cut in this direction, a depth of 1 centimeter and not cut too much. Zhou Xiaobin crossed his arms, crossed on his chest. Others said that it was impossible to be jade in it. Brother Lin sadly tilted his head and sighed heavily, and Ersyun's eyes were very surprised. Everyone began to say that this guy won the dispute. The guys asked for permission to look at this sooner. It is really green. It is just incredible. It is amazing how this is possible. It looks like the quality of the jade reaches the level of snowseed. The low-grade stone was very valuable. Zhou Xiaobin exclaimed that it was simply impossible. Ersyun explained that the cut of this stone was exciting. If he cut off a little more, he would have damaged the jade. He is lucky. He not only chose the right stone, but also predicted where exactly it was necessary to cut. Tan Qian said that he was very lucky. Of course, this is not because of luck, but because of X-ray vision. Lin told Zhou Xiaobin that the stone was cut, and it is clear that there is a good quality jade, whether he agrees. The man exclaimed that he did not expect this, but he did not think he won. Just a small piece of stone was cut. Who knows if there is a high-quality jade in the remaining piece of stone? The people around began to shout that it was ridiculous. Obviously, in this stone there is a good jade. How it can deny all this? He himself wanted to conclude a bet and now contradict the basic rules of gambling. The man exclaimed. Then he just wants to be sure that there is a whole jade, and if so, he admits that he lost. Tan Qian said that since he still does not want to recognize the defeat, then they will continue their bet. The boy asked to continue to cut. Ersyun asked Tan Qian if he really wanted to continue the dispute. Holding the stone in his hand, he wanted to know for sure whether his friend was sure of this. Lin explained that in this game, there is a phrase, if you see jade, do not lose sight of it. If he continues to cut, he can make himself worse. If it turns out that the jade contains impurities, then it will lose. Tang Qian replied that he knows, but still wants to try. He thought that he had already seen what was inside. The rest of the jade looks better than the one that is already visible. Ersyun said that in this case he would continue to cut it. Tan Qian asked to cut a shallow in this direction by about 8 millimeters. The guy exclaimed that God favors him, and showing the stone in the context of Zhou Xiaobin, he asked what he would say to it. On the back of the stone there is also a good quality jade. Zhou Xiaobin was beside himself with rage. He asked to wait, but the people around shouted that he had lost and now he had to pay him. It is necessary to recognize your defeat. Zhou Xiaobin explained that Lao Ji gave him this money. If he gives them to Mr. Tanu, then he will say Lao Si. But the guys achieved to give the guy his money. Tang Qian immediately thanked them smiling. He said that he received the money, and Zhou Xiaobin should stop counting that he is best and behave arrogantly. The man bowing his head left like a beaten dog. The guys around said Tan Qian that he was lucky. He chose a random stone and in it turned out to be of high-quality jade. One of the men said that if he does not know what to do with the stone, he can buy it for 100,000 yuan. The guys around were surprised. Did Lao Yan be ready to pay only 100,000? They began to offer 120,000. At the period, the rates grew. Someone wanted to offer 180,000, someone 200,000. Tan Qian asked if he completely cuts the stone and pulls out a jade from there, then how much it will cost. Lin replied that it depends on how jade looks. If everything is in order, then the price will be at least 300 yuan. Tan Qian exclaimed to continue to cut the stone, and in the context there was a green jade of Huanyan. Tan Qian himself was very surprised by this outcome of events. Lin raised the stone up and asked if they saw. This jade is slightly transparent. You can notice a bright yellow-green color. It looks like a sheet of wood blooming in early spring. Although it is not comparable to the type of jade as a green emperor, he is also quite rare and very expensive. Brother Lin asked to keep him tight as he was very valuable. The boy thought that this is a feeling of warmth that could not be described. First, he will find a professional who will appreciate his jade, and we can assume that the price of his father's operation is no longer a problem. With these 300,000 and counting tens of thousands of yuan that he earned playing the lottery, less than 200,000 yuan remains to pay for the operation. Having bought another lottery tickets and making stones on stone better, he will be able to collect the missing money in 1 week. Meanwhile, Imon's sister appeared in the room. The boy asked why she was so early today. The girl noticed that he was full of energy and asked how he was so enthusiastic. Tang Qian smiled embarrassedly and replied that nothing special. He thought that having money, he should invite Imon's sister and sister Sun Lulin. But for now, he puts it off for a while. Thanks to the sister IU, he will be able to bet on jade stones, because it was she who told him about the jade store. Otherwise, he would not have found such a wonderful application for his X-ray vision. Brother Lin and the rest approached the kid. He asked if Tan Xian sold his jade. The boy replied that he had not yet decided on the price, so he is looking for a professional who will help him. Brother Lin said that he would not have to look for a person to evaluate the stone, and he introduced the teacher Fan, a jade expert. He explained that the teacher Fan is an expert in the thread of jade stones. Many of his works received awards and are also very famous. Tan Xian told the teacher that Ershun mentioned him, and this is a great honor for him to meet him. Mr. Fan said that he had heard that he had won a valuable jade, so he came here to evaluate him. Can he show him a stone? The boy exclaimed that of course he would show. Miss Fu told Mr. Linya that he said that Tan Qian won a valuable jade. She asked if this was true. Lin replied that this was true. Yesterday, he bought a stone for 40 yuan, and his sections he had a rare type of jade. It's just incredible. Fu exclaimed that recently he was very lucky, and he told Tan Qian that he bought lottery tickets and rely on a stone, and in both cases won. Tan Qian replied that he was very lucky. He was in the jade store Ersun and bought a stone there. He did not think that he would win. Looking at the stone, they were both very surprised at his beauty and brilliance. Tan Qian asked Mr. Fanya what he was thinking about it. Mr. Fan exclaimed that this jade is definitely very good. Jade with such a texture is very rare and it is very difficult to find. If he decides to sell it, then he would buy it for 300,000 yuan. He asked Tan Qian how the guy would do in this case. Tan Qian thought. He asked for a little time to reflect. On the one hand, 300,000 yuan is not a small amount. Mr. Fan said that there is a similar jade in the store, but worse quality. From such a jade could make an expensive decoration. Unfortunately, Ersun made a mistake. He was drunk and inaccurately cut the stone, scratching the jade himself. Ersun blushed at his head and laughed. Tan Qian said that this is why the master is in a hurry to buy him from him. After a little thought, the boy confidently replied that he was ready to sell him jade. Mr. Fan exclaimed that it was just fine. The boy thought that having sold him, Xiang Lulin, he would not only make money, but also make friends. All he needs to make more friends and connections. And so they headed for the door. Tan Qian began to accompany guests. Miss Fu exclaimed, turning to the guy, that he was just incredible. The stone that costs 40 yuan now costs 300,000 yuan, almost 10 times more. She heard that there is a man who put on stones and in one day became rich, and it seems that these were not empty rumors. The boy, holding his head, replied that he was just lucky. And to himself, I thought that it was all thanks to X-ray vision. And so he headed towards the hospital. Tan Qian told his father and daughter-in-law that he had come. The daughter-in-law asked why he was here. Does he have a break? Tan Qian replied that he asked for a vacation, and they also have something to celebrate. Father immediately asked if something happened. and what they need to celebrate. Then the boy opened the notebook and asked them to see. Recently, he was able to successfully sell and earn 300,000 yuan. The girl exclaimed in amazement, surprised at this amount. Father began to wipe the drops of sweat from his face and said that his son had become so successful. He is so happy that he does not know what to say. Tan Qian asked his father to relax here in the hospital, and he would make sure that the doctors were given the best effective treatment. And here is the office of the director, in which the man was sitting with a sad look. Then he heard the voice of Tan Qian, and he said that the guy was just in time. Looking at him, he explained that he should just tell him something. He said that there is a problem with a donor kidney. Tan Qian asked what happened. Really, the donor of the kidney refused. Dr. Huan replied that this was not the point. Due to the large number of applications, the time of the operation has changed a bit. Also, the last time he said that it would take a week to collect the desired amount. But the problem is that he needs to pay within 3 days. Whether he will have time to collect the entire amount. Tan Qian exclaimed that he would have time and asked to record for the operation, even if there was only 1 day. Dr. Huan explained that it was needed as much as 500,000 yuan. Tan Qian showed the doctor that he had earned 400,000 yuan in 1 day, so he will easily collect 500,000 in 3 days. The doctor was very surprised, and he asked how he could earn so much. The boy explained that he simply recently worked on one project with classmates. Perhaps he was lucky, so he was able to earn 400,000 yuan. Dr. Huan replied that he was glad to hear it. However, the sooner he collects this amount, the better. Tan Qian said that he would try to do this as quickly as possible, and then the boy walked along the street, thinking what to do next. There are no big winnings in the nearest lottery stores. It seems that if he wants to collect money faster, he will have to make money again with the help of bets. He went to the store. His brother Lin and Uncle Hai were already waiting for his brother. Tan Qian came closer to them and asked what happened. Uncle Hai thanked the boy for the fact that he was such an incredible doctor and was able to immediately determine the disease. Tan Qian, stuck, answered his uncle that he was exaggerating. But his uncle said that he was following his advice. He went to the hospital for examination. And he was absolutely right. He had renal failure. Many doctors had it, but none of them talked about renal failure. They thought that he had problems with the stomach. Lin told the guy that they learned that Uncle had the initial stage of cirrhosis of the liver. Whether he will manage to cure Uncle Hai with Chinese medicine. Uncle exclaimed that he was hoping that he could cure him. He is ready to pay for treatment. Tan Qian replied that that was not the point. He just does not know if he will be able to cure him. The boy thought and asked Uncle Hai to bring a copy of his medical card. He wanted to carefully study her. Tan Qian, smiling, told Uncle Hai and Brother Linya that they would see himself later. The boy headed for the exit, with a slight smile on the lips. Miss Fu said it was amazing that such a talented guy works in her antique store. She asked why he threw a medical university. Tan Qian began to explain that when he was internships during training, his father was very ill. He threw the university for some time and decided to earn enough money to treat his father. He can continue training at any time, but the life of his father is only one. Fu replied that in the world there are so few people like him. If he has any problems, then he can turn to her. She will be happy to help. Tan Qian asked if he could leave after dinner. Fu replied that without problems, in the end, this is her store. Tan Qian immediately thanked the girl. To himself, he thought that he could not do this. In this place where he is now, not a single good stone. This stone is not as good as the past. And besides, he does not see so deeply. Maybe there are impurities there. Ershun asked his brother Tan Xian if he wanted to bet again. The boy answered, closing his eyes, that he just came to see. Ershun showed him towards the crowd. He explained that so many people came here, and all thanks to him. Tan Qian turned to him and asked how it is thanks to him. The guy explained that due to the fact that he turned out to be ice nephritis became the news of the day. Now he is a legend. Around they said that this is the guy, pointing at him. Tan Qian said that this was a coincidence because he took a stone at random. He asked Ersyun if there were other jade stones on this street. Ersyun replied that there is, below the flower and bird market. The boy offered to go together if he wants to go and see other stones. He also has some business there. Tan Qian laughed and replied that of course they would go. The next day, the bird market on Jade Street spread before us. Tan Qian went forward with his friend. Then he suddenly was very surprised at something, and the name Jun Baoshan said to himself. In front of him stood a girl who greeted him. The boy was very surprised to see such a beautiful worker. Ersyun told the girl that he had come to pick up something for the teacher Fanya. Miss Chen replied that it was ready. He introduced the girl of his two friends Lin Zihao and Tan Qian. The guy explained that they are engaged in antiques and nephritis. Miss Chen immediately greeted Mr. Tan, and she said to welcome to Junbao Xuan. The guy immediately shook the girl's hand and greeted her. Then a flash occurred during the handshake. The girl is pale. She has a weak pulse and low body temperature, untimely menstruation. Although the symptoms are weak, if she does not make a diagnosis and she does not begin treatment, she may have anemia and weakness in the body. Toning blood tablets is required for treatment. The tablets can be made manually from the Chinese wolfberries for 2 cents, the Chinese dudnik in 1 cent. For mixing and cleaning, you can use a regular medical flask. As soon as the medicine is ready, you can make a lot of pills from it. Following the course of treatment, the blood will recover. In a few days, the symptoms will also pass. So looking at the patient's face and touching him, you can assess the patient's condition. When Tang Qian shook the girl's hand, friends looked at them in surprise. Miss Chen blushed a little and said the name of the guy. When he realized that he had held the girl's hand for too long, he immediately blushed. Then he released her hand and apologized. Miss Chen closed her eyes a little embarrassed and replied that everything was in order. The girl went to the table and greeted Mr. Lina. She asked him to enter too. Ersyun told his brother Tanu that he looked very embarrassed. Lin said that he realized what was happening. The boy exclaimed that this is not what he thinks and asked not to laugh. Urson said that this was actually normal. On this street, Miss Chen have a reputation for an emerald girl. She is the only daughter of King Nedrit Chen Owen. She is very modest and does not like publicity. Otherwise, she would be famous. Meanwhile, they sat together at the table. They brought them a menu, for which the guys thanked the waitress. At this time, Tang Qian watched from the side of the girl. He noticed that the situation here is a very comfortable and pleasant aroma. This girl is really very beautiful, but he began to stop himself considering this wrong. After all, he is not here to look at a beautiful girl. He is here for the sake of jade stones. The boy asked Ersyun if there were jade stones in this store. Ersyun replied that there is no, and this store mainly sells only nephritis. However, Miss Chen also puts on stones. He met her a couple of times in Pinju. She often visits jade stone stores and put on stones many times. Tan Chen was very surprised. Miss Chen exclaimed that she had been waiting for them for a long time. Here is the whole jade that Mr. Fan ordered. Ersyun immediately thanked the girl. They all turned their heads in her direction. Chen told Tan Qian that he heard that he put on an ice jade. Is he really so good? Ersyun replied that he did not reach the level of ice jade. It belongs to the type of wax ice seed of nephritis. Chen said that Mr. Linya had good eyesight and asked to help her with a stone. Lin asked whether she also bought jade stones. The girl replied that she bought a bunch of stones, but many of them were simple. Only one good remained. But he is only a stone of half a bet, and now it is confusing. She does not know whether she should continue to cut a stone or sell it like a stone with a half bet. Tan Qian decided that there are stones and he could test his X-ray vision on it. When they brought the stone, from the side it looked good. Urson exclaimed that this stone looks amazing. She has a rather large stone nephritis and, moreover, it is crystal pure. Obviously, this is the best jade. This stone is very good now. When the incision is visible, nephritis on the other side of the stone can be of better quality. Miss Chen said that she had recently lost a lot of money and is now confused. She has a friend who is ready to buy it, but she would like to ask them to evaluate him. Are there any chances that if it continues to cut, the price of nephritis increases? Tan Chen asked to see this stone. When he approached the stone, he began to look closely. He looked around as carefully as possible, as if he had noticed something there. Then the boy smiled, apparently realizing that she had made the right choice. Tan Chen asked Miss Chen to turn the stone. The girl immediately agreed and helped the guy. When she turned the stone, the eyes of others immediately changed. Ershun exclaimed that the shell of the stone is so refined, there is definitely nephritis of good quality. Chen replied that it cost 120,000, but she bought for 80,000. Urson asked for how much her friend wants to buy him. The girl replied, that for 300,000. She asked what they think about it. She continued to cut the stone or immediately sell it to her friend. Ershun replied that it was always difficult to put on a stone. No one can guarantee that the next section will be successful. He asked what Brother Lin thinks about it. The guy replied that it was difficult to decide what to do with this stone. It all depends on Miss Chen. The girl said that in this case, she would still think. She asked to take this stone back. But Tan Qian asked to wait and explained who wants to tell her something. Chen asked Mr. Tan if he wanted to offer her something. The boy replied that he was inviting her to continue to cut this stone. He thinks she should continue to put it on him. It will be so annoying if she sells it in this form. The girl asked why he thinks so. Does he see something inside? Tan Qian replied that he was just feeling this, a kind of intuition. She may not believe, but he sincerely invites her to continue to put on him and not sell to others. Miss Chen said that, on the other hand, other people lost a lot of money due to poor intuition. Tan Qian replied that if she was not sure, then let him put him on a stone. If he loses, they will pay everything that he lost. But if he wins, they will share the winnings, and thus she is in a win-win situation. The guys began to tell him that this is not a joke of 300,000 yuan. Ersun exclaimed that although he earned them last time, but in the future there may not be such an opportunity. Miss Chen thanked the guy and said that she could not allow him to take this risk. She must put on her own. And then some man with several more people appeared in the door. He turned to the girl and asked if she cut a stone. Miss Chen turned into Uncle Han. The man noticed that the guys are here too. He explained that Zheng the day before yesterday promised to him that if he did not cut the stone within 3 days, he would sell it to him, whether she will keep a promise. Tan Qian thought that he was her friend who wants to buy this stone for 300,000. Jen answered Uncle that she decided to cut this stone, so she did not sell it. He asked how she could do this unless she promised him, and he said that she broke the promise. The girl said that she had not broken. 3 days had not yet passed. He came too early. Uncle replied that since there were less than a day left, she either cuts him right in front of him or sells it to him. Jen agreed and asked to take the stone to the team to cut stone. The girl turned to Mr. Tana and asked how he thinks whether it was worth cutting him. Uncle Hong asked whether her friend in the field of jade stones asked. Jen replied that it was her friend, and he came with Mr. Sunday. The girl introduced Mr. Tana Uncle Hona. She explained that he was a boss in the field of jade stones, also owns a large collection of jade in Jiangzhou. The boy immediately greeted Mr. Honorable. Uncle asked if she decided to put on a stone because Tan Zian told her. The girl explained that the guy offered to cut the stone, saying that the stone had good chances. Uncle replied that she could believe her friend, but he met so many young people who were mistaken. He often placed on stones. He usually lost more than he won. The girl asked Mr. Tan how to start cutting her. She would like to hear his opinion. Tan Qian replied that he would invite her to grind the surface of the stone, whether it will turn out to be grind without cutting off. Lin thought about how a beginner could advise Miss Chen with such confidence. The guy who cut the stone called Miss Chen and exclaimed that it seems to be there something green. The girl asked to rinse it with water. The guys listened right away. Someone exclaimed that it was a jadeite. Everyone had amazed glances and open mouths. This is a whole jadeite. One of the men who was an expert asked for permission to check. Then he said that this is a wonderful example and quite rare. Urson told his brother Lin that the stone had such a bright green color. Lin replied that he looked so transparent that Miss Chen was worth wiping him. The bet quickly rose. Ershun said that it was very unexpected that his brother Tana is so hinted, and this did not pass by him. Tan Qian thought that he had seen it with his own eyes. It would be strange if there was no jadeite in it. Chen exclaimed that they received such a wonderful outcome only thanks to the leadership and advice of Mr. Tan. The girl thanked him and said that his vision is something. She went to the boy and shook his hand. Tan Qian asked not to thank him. The guys said they underestimated him. Of course, he was optimistic about this stone, but he lacked confidence. But his analysis is quite accurate. There are not so many young people with vision as his. Chen said that she also did not see this. She thinks that he is not a beginner at all in this matter, but almost a master with an unusual vision, and it was amazing. Tan Qian replied that he was a simple newcomer. In fact, it was Ershun and brother Lin, those who brought him to this industry. Ershun thought about whether Tan San is a newcomer or he is a burned samovar in this matter. Lin was also surprised why he was so accurate as if he had prophetic power. Miss Chen introduced herself to the guy. She explained that her friends and relatives call her Zhao Mein. He can also call her so if he wants. The boy exclaimed that for him, the honor to be a friend of Miss Chen. And then the guys headed for the exit. Ershun asked his brother Tan if he originally knew that this stone would pay off. Tan Qian replied that he did not know, and it was a simple accident. He just thought that he would be good. This is a simple luck. Urson asked, could it be an accident and simple luck? He doubts that being a newcomer or at all anyone with the help of one good luck find 2 stones in a row. The boy replied that he really had only come to this industry. He never even touched the adventurin. Let them ask about this sister, Immune. Lin told Ersunu that Tan Qian would not lie to them. They cannot say that his morals and luck are somewhat different from their them. Erson exclaimed that he was rather strange. It is good that he nevertheless joined this industry in the right time. Tan Qian told Ersunu that he said that there was a jewelry shop on Jade Street and asked where he was. Ersyun promised to show him to him immediately. He is successful today and cannot miss this. Perhaps he will find another or 2 good stones. The guy explained that there were a bunch of stones in this store, but almost all of them already grabbed. Tan Qian felt that there were no good samples for which could be betting. Lin asked when they finished to spend it to the next store. You need to seize many things. Tan Qian thought that it was time to put a couple of adventurins for a start. He needs to learn something from Lin Zihao and other experts. He cannot forever remain a beginner. And now many bright gold coins sparkled in front of him. Tang Qian carefully looking at the coins. I could not see part under a layer of coins. He carefully looked at this mountain and thought. To himself, he asked Kansi Tumbao whether it is valuable. Taking the phone in his hands, he decided to check. Then he found out that it costs only 20 yuan, and I decided to see others. Lin said that there is nothing very good here. Tan Qian felt that it was slightly different and decided to buy it. Lin told the guy that they were already leaving, but he suddenly exclaimed that he had found what he was looking for, and he asked for how much they would sell these ancient coins. The man replied that they were all from a bronze dense base and in good condition. The price per set is high. If he so sincerely wants them, then he can give them for 800 yen apiece. Ersun exclaimed that their price is very high, or they think that they are so green and do not understand this. These ancient coins were probably bought somewhere cheaper on Ancient Street. This price is really unjustified. They deceive them. But the man replied that there are many places to evaluate ancient coins. Lin exclaimed that the copper rust, which coins are very powerful on top. However, he cannot see what copper is inside. He never saw someone to ask for so much for such coins. Tanqian said that 800 is too much, and he asked if they could lower the cost. The man replied that at least 200 no less. Tanqian said that he was buying them. When they left, Lin asked the guy why he bought these copper coins. He could buy hundreds of such cheap coins for 200 yuan, especially since they did not have time for persuasion. Tang Qian replied that this does not matter. While they are bad, he will just throw 200 yuan to the wind. And then the boy came up once again to the wash basin. He raised the coin and began to clean her toothpaste. He approached the sister of Aimun and said that she had good vision. Therefore, he asks her to identify one coin for him. When the girl began to look at the coin, she exclaimed that it was Kansi Tunbao, and she asked the guy where he got her. Tan Qian said that this ancient coin could cost from 100,000. His eyes sparkled right there. After all, this is another chance to earn. Thus, he will be able to pay medical expenses. Imon explained that given the layer and shape it should be, but there are many types of Kansi Tunbao. Due to various production processes and their actual existence in the world, prices vary. The boy asked what this coin about this coin. The girl explained that this is a two-time currency. She is a little more than the currency of Xiaopin, and the model is relatively rare. It is better for him to send her to some auction company. They usually have experts that will help him identify it. They will tell the estate and arrange an auction. Tan Qian asked how much time it would take. The girl replied that from preparation to the official auction, there are certain processes that occupy 2-3 months, it turns out about a quarter of a year. The boy exclaimed that this did not fit, too slowly, and he asked if there are other places besides the auction house where they can determine the cost. Imon replied that he helped Uncle Hai with his illness. Why not ask him to evaluate this coin? Tan Qian agreed with the girl, said that he would really ask him. Then he was already at his Uncle Hai. When a man picked up a coin, of his eyes widened. He exclaimed that it was Shu Tianqi. Tan Qian asked what it was. Hai began to explain that Shu Suhui, the leader of the Army of the Red Scarf, establishing political power, created these coins. However, in difficult times they were not worth much, and now they are considered one of the 50 treasures. Given the size of this coin, it is very rare. Therefore, he congratulates the boy for such a good find. This ancient coin is included in the collection of ancient coins. Many collectors would like to buy it. Tan Qian asked how much this bronze coin would cost. The man replied that he was not sure about the exact price. Well, if he transfer it to the auction company, the initial price will be 30,000. At least 100,000 can be the maximum price. With this coin, it will not be difficult to put the price more than 150. The boy explained that he urgently needs to earn money, and he is afraid that he will not be able to wait for the auction. In addition, he does not know where you can sell it. Uncle Hai replied that it was really difficult, but he has many friends who collect old coins. They would like this coin. And later, in the afternoon, his uncle introduced the boy, Mr. Lon, who would like to buy him Shu Tianqi for 150,000. Tan Qian was delighted and thought that even if he sold at the auction, he would not have received so much money. Uncle explained that Mr. Lon is a large businessman. He collects 5 ancient treasures du Quan. Such antiques can be inconspicuous for many people, but for collectors like him, they are very valuable. Mr. Lon said that it was really that Shu Tianqi that he wanted, although in some place it rustled as a whole. It looks good. The guy asked if it was possible to pay him a check. Tan Qian immediately agreed. Mr. Lon thanked the guy for such a beautiful old coin. Tan Qian replied that I was always pleased and thanked the guy in response. He explained that Mr. Lon helped him a lot. Lin asked not to tell him that this is the coin that he bought today on Jade Street. Tan Qian replied that it was that. He cleared the coin of rust and it turned out that it was quite valuable. Did he really bought Shu Tianxi just 200 yuan? Lin answered his uncle, so it was, in the Mr. Hu store. Most of the goods have no value, and he did not expect that the guy could find such a precious thing there. He must buy all the bronze coins there. Perhaps there are still valuable goods. Tan Qian exclaimed that the rest are not so good and practically have no value. Then the guy asked where he knew. Tang Qian smiling replied that he had just suggested, and to himself, he thought that he watched every product so that he could not allow Mr. Lina to spend money in vain. And here we have a large building of the hospital. Dr. Huan was shocked that the boy raised money so quickly. Has he really took them from someone? Tan Qian replied that he did not occupy them. He has a business on which he was able to earn so much. He began to get 500,000 yuan for surgery and to pay for all subsequent drugs. Dr. Huan praised the guy that he was able to collect so much money in such a short time, not taking from anyone, and doing his own business. Tan Qian said that he could transfer money to the doctor at any time. He asked more likely to put an application for his father's operation. Dr. Huan replied that he would try, but could not guarantee what will happen. Still, here many patients need an operation to transplant a kidney. Therefore, he must be ready psychologically. Everything depends on his luck. Tan Qian said that he understands this. And so he again went to his father's ward and began to say that he had good news. In the ward, there was a girl throwing her gaze at the guy. He recognized Professor Van in her, and he was very surprised by her arrival. Tan Qian thought that she was here in order to find out the details of the recipe for detoxification. Tan Qian sat next to Professor Van. The girl asked the guy if he came up with how to solve the problem. Tan Qian replied that he had already collected the entire amount to pay for the operation. Professor Van was very surprised how he could raise money so fast. Since he found a way, she is glad for him. Tan Qian thanked her. Professor Van said that although he gathered 500,000 yuan, the hospital has many patients in need of kidney transplant operations. Some patients have good connections, so that it will be very difficult for him to get this operation. But if he helps them, then their hospital will use all the connections for him. And even if he receives surgery, you will need to pay for subsequent treatment and drugs. Tan Qian said that he already has a solution for this, but whether he will receive the operation depends on good luck. The girl said that he has a recipe in his arms that does not benefit, but as soon as he shares it with the hospital, they will be able to cure many patients. The boy explained that the Chinese doctor refused to give a recipe, but he said that he would cooperate as much as possible. And he offered her as soon as she helps with the operation for his father, he will help them with the treatment of patients when they ask. Professor Van replied that she would talk to the head physician, and then the next day came. Tan Qian told my sister Yi Han that he would leave for a while, go to the Chinese pharmacy. The girl replied that she realized that he wants to find a medicine for Uncle Hai. Tan Qian said that it was. He only finished work for today and wants to quickly prepare the medicine. The girl said that he could become a doctor and open his pharmacy. Now there are many people who are sick and worried about their health, so the pharmacy will be a very profitable business. Tan Qian replied that he had no qualifications to open a pharmacy or something like that. At the pharmacy, Mr. Tana was asked if he still wants to buy medicines. He asked to wait a bit, as these two clients also came to buy medicines. Tan Qian replied that of course, let them be the first. Men looked askance at the guy. Tan Qian noticed that his eyes are covered with blue and black shade. These are the symptoms of a chronic disease and exhaustion. The main function of the kidney is the growth and development of reproductive function. Who has renal failure should eat. To cure it, you need to take ordinary Zhuangzi pills. Tan Qian realized that this man had serious renal failure. It is not surprising that his face at first glance can be said that he is the type of people who are too condescending. The pharmacist asked Mr. Dean what medicine he would take this time. Is it indicated in the recipe? The man replied that he brought a prescription from a doctor and this is a secret prescription. Tan Qian glanced towards the paper. Looking at the leaf, he began to think. He was tense. The boy said that this is not right. After that, the man turned to him and asked what he said. Tan Chien replied that nothing like that, it just seems to him that the recipe that was written to him wrong. Dean asked Dr. Lee. The boy replied not. The man asked why then he doubted this recipe. This is a secret recipe, and he paid $1,000 for it. The old Chinese doctor with many years of experience gave him to him, and he says that it would not cure him. Tan Chien said that he could be wrong, but something about his renal failure. Dean immediately began to ask what he wanted to say. When the pharmacist took the paper, he said that the guy was right and this recipe is wrong. It will cure only the lightest form of kidney disease, and collecting drugs according to this prescription will be quite difficult. The man answered Dr. Pan that perhaps he did not know, but the doctor who gave him this recipe has extensive experience. Then Pan asked if he remembered mass poisoning what happened a couple of days ago. Pan replied that he had information from one source. They were cured by a mysterious old Chinese doctor, and the secret recipe was written to him by this very doctor. Pan explained that he should think twice before doing anything. Even if there was such an incredible doctor, perhaps the one who gave him this recipe is not him. It could be an imposter. This year, one doctor of the imposter killed someone. Dean asked the doctor simply to bring him these medicines. The man immediately rushed for medicines. Tan Chien thought that this fat man definitely knew what happened that day. It seems that someone gave a secret. This is his first tablet that he himself has prepared. Tan Chien hoped that it would be successful. Now you need to mix boiled honey and medical powder in a certain ratio. If you add in the wrong ratio, the tablet will not work. And then you need to prepare the dough, cut with a knife symmetrically into strips. It remains only to form one round honey tablet and it will be ready. The kid sighed in relief after he finally finished. When the tablets dry, he decided to take them to Uncle Hai. Then he remembered that it was already 2 in the afternoon. He needs to eat something. Then someone asked whether Tan Xian here. The boy decided that it was most likely Tao's sister. Approaching the door, he said that here. The girl said that in the morning she saw how he returned from the window, so she knew that he was inside. Tang Qian replied that he had returned home in the morning and did not go out. He asked Tao's sister if she came for rent. Soon it will become rich, so they asked for a couple of days. But the girl replied that she told him that there was no need to pay for rent, and she asked if she could help with anything else. She was wondering what he had just done in the room. She smelled medicines, and he asked whether he prepared the medicine here. The boy replied that he really prepared medicines for one friend. She was very surprised that he did everything himself. It's so pity that he had to quit the university and the profession of the doctor. Tan Qian replied that nothing was afraid. He is satisfied with his current profession. In any case, he can still make medicines and sell them. Tao exclaimed that gold is always glowing, and he can make medicines. She also asked not to worry about the rental. Now the most important thing is to cure his father. Tan Qian thought that even though the sister of Tao looks menacing, in fact, she is a very kind girl. The boy thought that she was also quite beautiful. Then he heard the exclamation of the girl and ran in her direction. He asked if everything was in order with her. The girl explained that she slipped and fell. The boy asked if she was in order. Tao explained that her lower back hurts, and she hopes that she did not break her leg or shoulder. Tan Pai took the girl in his arms. She was breathing heavily. Tan Qian blushed, looking towards the neckline of the girl. When the boy took the girl in her arms, she, very angry, seeing his gaze. Tao asked where he was looking. She asked for help and not just look at her. Then she exclaimed that her leg hurts a lot. Tan Qian asked Tao's sister to look at her damaged leg. He said that this should not be a problem and asked to take it home and help after they carefully examine the leg. If she wants, then he can take her to the hospital. The girl moaned in pain. He asked to forget about it and suggested better to bear her on his back. When he carried the girl, she apologized for worrying him. The boy felt that she was very close to him. He should not think about such things. Now it is important to check the wound of the Tao sister. He asked if she had someone at home. The girl replied that there was no one at home and her key in her back pocket. Tan Qian said that he did not hear where the key was lying. The girl again said that he was in his back pocket. The guy began to feel the key, inadvertently touching her by the hips. Tao exclaimed that he was not touching there and asked to look a little higher and to the left. Finally, the boy took it. He wanted to clarify, but he had no intention of using it. Finally, the boy brought the girl and asked for permission to check the leg. The girl has a bruise of her legs. A swelling appeared. Fortunately, she does not have a fracture. He can apply ointment from ordinary bruises. Those who often receive injuries are usually often used by patch. Skin plasters is a creation, one of the 8 immortal. He should simply apply the ointment on the affected part of the body, and it will reduce edema and pain. Tan Qian told Tao that everything is in order. Fortunately, the wound is not so serious. He asked his sister Tao if he could examine her lower back. The girl was very embarrassed, but agreed. He asked her not to be embarrassed. If everything is fine with the lower back, she will not have to worry. Otherwise, she will have to go to the hospital as soon as possible. The girl agreed and immediately began to undress. When she took off her jacket, Tan Qian explained that there was just a small bruise. Tao asked him to bring her safflower oil and apply him to the wound. She explained that it helps very well. In addition to safflower oil, we also need a patch and rhubarb. Tan Qian decided that he had to go to the Chinese pharmacy again. And now that doctor is again in front of him, he asked if any medicines were needed. When the boy took the medicine, he thought that although his eyes helped him with a prescription, not one of the auxiliary ingredients was mentioned, and the exact stages of cleaning was said. He had to figure it out himself. He thought he would be able to bandage the wound himself. And I decided to try to make a regular dressing. It will help for a while. He needs to warm up Soflor oil over high heat. As soon as the oil warms up, pour the powder in the pan mixes with oil, and then pour excess oil, leaving in a medical mixture with impurities. I must filter the medical mixture, but since it was his first time, he could not control the temperature. So he will leave a medical mixture with impurities so that it will not lose its healing properties. It's good that everything is ready for dressing. He hopes that it will help, as said in the recipe. It should cure the wound of the Tao sister. The boy went to the door and began to knock. Suddenly, a guy opened the door. He asked if the boy was looking for someone. Tan Qian replied that he was looking for Tao's sister and whether she asked at home. He heard the voice of a girl who asked Li Tan Qian. The boy replied that he asked him in order whether she was in order. The girl asked how she could be fine, falling from the stairs. She seems to have to go to the hospital. The guy who was near the girl asked if she really doubts. Her wound is quite serious. If they do not cure a bruise and edema on time, then it will be more difficult to cure the wound. Taiyo introduced Tan Xiyan of her friend Jiang Tao. He is the attending physician of the central hospital, specializing in surgery. After that, the girl introduced the guy Tan Qian, and she explained that he was a magnificent son and doctor. He came to Lanzhou and his father to cure his illness. Jiang Tao asked the guy not to put it off, but to just go to the hospital with him. Tan Qian asked his sister to wait and explained that he brought medicine for her. He would reduce inflammation and swelling. He is sure that she will cure her wound. The girl asked what medicine he brought, whether he had just made him for her. Tan Qian replied that he had made him exactly for her, and this medicine would help remove bruises and other injuries. The girl exclaimed that she really wants to try the medicine that he has prepared for her. The boy wanted to bring the bottle to her, but the girl's friend immediately grabbed his hand and asked what he was doing and what kind of medicine he gives her. Tan Qiang began to explain that this is a painter ointment made according to the Chinese recipe for the treatment of edema and bruises. It will help to cure the wound of the Tao sister. Jiang Tao said that it looks like fecali and smells disgusting. Is this not a skin patch? Tan Qian replied that he really guessed. This is one of the types of skin plasters. Zhang Tao was surprised that the guy admitted that it was a leather patch, but still wanted to use it on Tao. Traditional Chinese medicine has long been erased from history. Who continues to use their medicine to deceive themselves and others? Tan Qian replied that if he believes that Chinese medicine is useless, then he does not want to listen to him. He is a doctor, so he refers to this biased. More than 5,000 years ago, people used Chinese medicine. If he considers her useless, he does not understand her at all. Mass poisoning a couple of days ago, as he could cure those patients. Jiang Tao was surprised and asked where he knows about it. Then, the boy answered the question with a question and asked if he mean where he knows what was happening inside the hospital. And he explained only that this news has long been its spread, but not only he knows about it. The boy asked his sister Tao to apply the medicine. Although this ointment is slightly different, it should cure her wound. Tao's sister agreed and asked him to help put the ointment to the wound. Tan Qian opened the bottle, immediately agreed to help the girl. He carefully smeared the ointment on the wound and stuck a patch. The girl thanked her friend for their help. She said that after this ointment, she feels better. Tan Qian was satisfied and replied that it was good. He explained that half remained here and said that he would leave her here, so that she does not break again tomorrow. Tan Qian said that he was already leaving. This girl called him and asked to wait. She noticed that he was busy and still prepared this ointment. She must pay for her. The boy said that it was not necessary. She already helped him with rent. Tao replied that if the ointment really helps and cure her wounds, then he may not pay for the next month of rent. Tan Qian thought that 1 month of rent costs 1,000 yuan. It turns out that this ointment is equivalent to 1,000 yuan. He wanted to argue with her, but the girl asked him not to worry. After all, it is worth it. The boy immediately thanked Tao's sister. And then, Uncle Hai met Tan Qian. He asked whether he prepared a boy with a medicine for him. Tan Qian immediately began to get something from the bag and replied that he had prepared. Lin was surprised and asked if he made these pills himself. They are black, and why they look like the litter of an animal. The boy replied that they did not look very, because they are covered with a special film. But the fact that they look strange does not mean that they will not help. Lin agreed with him. Uncle said that he was sure of the medicine that Tan Qianu brought. The boy asked his uncle to take 1 tablet twice a day and check his condition every week. The man asked how much he had to pay for these pills. Tan Qian answered Uncle He that he would not take money from him and will be glad if they help him. The boy began to carry out a card on the terminal. He has only 500,000 yuan for kidney transplantation, so he again on the shallows. Tan Qian thought it was worth it and headed for business. When he returned back to his uncle in Linya, the guy was very delighted that he had come. He asked to follow him, since he really needed his help. He is a really brilliant doctor. Uncle Hai for decades could not cure his illness. His medicine significantly improved his condition. Tan Qian told his brother Linya that he was flattering him, as he could be a brilliant doctor. He is glad that the medicine helped. Lin said that he wanted to ask him to cure his grandfather. His grandfather has been sick for a year now. They have contacted doctors so many times, but all to no avail. Their family is so worried about him. Finally met him, a brilliant doctor. Can he go to the house with him and cure his grandfather? If he can cure him, he will be infinitely grateful to him. Tan Qian explained that he does not know if his grandfather could cure his grandfather, and I thought that if he needs an ingredient that he cannot find, then he could not help. In any case, Lin asked to see him. Tan Qian cannot refuse the guy and replied that he would examine. Lin asked the boy to go with him and explained that Uncle Hai was waiting for him inside. Uncle said that those tablets that he gave him helped him yesterday. He accepted only 2 tablets and he almost does not hurt the liver. Tan Qian replied that it means the tablet had already acted. He needs to continue the course of treatment, take several tablets for a couple of days, and monitor the condition. Uncle Hai cordially thanked the boy for the medicine, and he asked for permission to give him something. When the boy asked what was there, his uncle asked to see. Tan Qian opened the box and found jade there. Uncle explained that he gives him this jade Buddha. It brings good luck and gives safety. Lin told Uncle that this jade Buddha is so bright, whether it was made of that new jade. Uncle replied that it was the jade that he bought in Xianjiang. He asked Lao Fanya to cut several pendants from him. This Buddha was made of the largest jade stone. Tan Qian exclaimed that he could not accept such a valuable gift. But Uncle said that it doesn't matter how much it costs because health is much more expensive. He gave him an excellent medicine. Nothing could compare with him. He did not take a fee from him for him, so let him consider this gift to his gratitude. Lin asked the guy not to doubt and accept the gift, this gift to Uncle Hai with all his heart. Tan Chen cordially thanked Uncle Hai. Lin was driving a car. He explained to the guy that jade, who gave him Uncle Hai, very good. This is a Kitian jade. Tan Qian asked if it was expensive. Lin replied that now it is very difficult to get a good Cheetah nephritis in the market, and this jade Buddha will cost 10,000 yuan. Tan Qian exclaimed that it is so valuable. Lin replied that still, she costs much less than the treatment of Uncle Hai's disease. Have a healthy body, the most valuable thing in life. And now, the car has already driven up to the house. Lin asked Tan Qian to enter. His grandfather is at home. He is very sick, and the whole family is worried about him. A girl appeared in the doorway and joyfully met her brother. She exclaimed that he did not need to work today. Then she suddenly fell silent, covering her mouth with her hand. Brother introduced his sister to Tan Qian. Lin asked her sister does not know if she was sleeping now, her grandfather is sleeping or already waking up. If he does not sleep, then he wants to take Tan Xian to him. The girl replied that he had already woke up and asked to go with her. She went to the stairs and said that she had to go upstairs. A sick grandfather lay in the room. He recognized his grandson and asked if he returned. Lin explained to his grandfather that he brought a friend whose name was Tan Qian. He knows Chinese medicine and very good in creating medicines, so he invited him to examine his condition. Perhaps he will be able to cure him. Grandfather greeted the guy and thanked that he came here like a doctor. The boy greeted him in response. Grandfather said that it is impossible to cure it. This disease is incurable. Tan Qian noticed that grandfather was sure that he has an incurable disease. He does not try to lie or to conceal something. He has a serious illness not the same as that of Uncle Hai. Lin told grandfather that medical technologies are now well developed. Regardless of how serious the disease is, it can be cured. He does not need to worry. After that, the guy asked Tan Qian to help his grandfather, rather watch him. Tan Qian asked his grandfather permission to check his pulse. Then he put his hand on him and noticed that the man had a pale complexion. He looks tired, has anemia. His tongue has become dark. Symptoms of depression, stomach problems, and weak veins. In addition, Intan shows a dark blue color. It is impossible to recover from such a disease with ordinary drugs. The only way is to use a panacea. It will temporarily relieve pain and give time to find a suitable medicine. Grandfather Shaolina has stomach problems. One of the most serious diseases, stomach cancer. Fortunately, the divine doctor has a recipe for medical soup, which is an analgesic for patients with sick cancer. Tan Qian was completely immersed in what he understood now. He lowered his head down. Lin asked like a grandfather. The boy asked him to go out and talk there. But grandfather said that there was no need for this. If he has something to say, then let them speak directly. He knows his disease very well. Tan Qian explained to Linya that his grandfather is most likely to be cancer of the stomach. The guy was very surprised how he just defined it. Grandfather asked how Tan Qian, without knowing his medical history, determined that he had cancer. Tan Qian replied that he was looking at him and measuring the pulse. He suggested that he had cancer. Grandfather said that he was pretty good. He really has stomach cancer. It was already at the last stage when he found out about him. He was told that he would live a maximum of 6 months, but he has been alive for 2 years. Tan Qian said that it was because he has an incredible will. Many patients with cancer of the last stage were miraculously cured. In the history of medicine, such cases are difficult to explain. He is sure that he will have the same. Grandfather replied that he was not afraid. Obviously, he fought all these years. Now he is afraid he really wants to see Jan van Laozi. Lin asked the guy if he could cure his grandfather. Tan Chen replied that the medicine exists and he can try. Lin asked them to give them more likely this medicine or recipe. They will do it themselves, so it will not be at a loss. Tan Qian replied that the preparation of the medicine is much heavier, he would weld it and how it will be ready to bring them. Although he does not know if it will help, he will put all his strength for this. Lin exclaimed that it was just excellent and thanked the boy. He said that since he wants to leave it on him so much. And now Tan Qian has already ended up in a pharmacy. He asked a few ingredients. After which, being at home, I thought that this time it would be enough to make a healing decoction. He is better than tablets. When the boy made the medicine, he took a breath. And he sighed in relief when the medicine was ready. You need to give the medicine before dark. Still, the life of a person depends on it, and this cannot be postponed. The boy ran towards the house. Suddenly, the guys met in the way. He asked what they were doing here. The guys said that he owed them money and it was time to pay. He is here to remind him and ask if he is ready to pay. Tang Qian replied that he owed nothing. This Lei must pay him for the medicine. Then one of the guys hit him and exclaimed that it looks like a guy does not really want to live. They explained that they knew that he had recently put on an emerald stone. This stone costs at least 300,000. The guy explained that Lei said that he could pay with that jade stone. Tan Qian exclaimed that let him only dream about it. Then the enemy was indignant, but he just said that. Or he did not understand who it was. The guys offered to beat him better. They filled the guy to the ground and decided to see how strong his bones were. They began to pull out a package from his hands and asked what was there inside. Tan Qian began to scream and ask not to touch him. The guy replied that he was thinking there's something interesting, and these are just vessels with a medical decoction. He does not know what kind of medicine this is, and here is a bad luck. The evil guy raised the vessel up, and that there was strength to break it on asphalt. Tan Qian was simply disappointed. The guys said this is the last warning. If he does not repay the debt of Lei Jie the next time, then that this vessel will fall to the ground. The boy was very upset. He turned around and dropped his head away. When he returned, Lin asked if he had brought the medicine. Tan Qian began to explain that he had prepared it and had already moved here, but he did not expect that this would happen. When he told, Lin was beside himself with rage and asked where they are now. He said who would find them immediately. How this moron Lei Biao dared to attack him. Uncle confirmed that the son of Ryu Scan is really a bully. After all, he always relies on the wealth and influence of his family. But this time he attacked his friend who, like his brother and Lin, exclaimed that he would not tolerate this. Uncle asked him to cool. He should not go to Ryu Swan. Tan Qian said that Uncle Hai is right. If he in a hurry begins to look for him, perhaps he will not be able to deal with them. In the end, this is their territory. But Lin did not want to leave everything as it is and let them beat him. Tan Qian said that Lei Ji wanted him jade. He offered to pretend that he was going to pay off and they would come to pick it up. As soon as they come, he will appear with his fury and deal with them. Lin replied that they would do so. And now the evening has come, namely 7 hours. Someone knocked on the door and said that he decided to give him jade. Lei said that he looked like he understood what position is and this is good. Tan Qian lowered his head down and asked the guys to sit down. When the guys sat down at the table, he put the jade on the table. Lei got up from the table and hit his hand on the surface. He exclaimed that the guy was trying to deceive him. He decided that Tan Qian wanted to slip a fake stone for him. He clearly wants to die. Suddenly, someone began to knock hard on the door. Lei asked who it was. Lin appeared on the threshold. He was very angry and was ready for revenge. He exclaimed that the guy knew him. After that, having accelerated, he hit him with all his might with his fist in the face. One of the guys asked what they were doing. Lin was indignant. He also asked what he is doing. After that, the second blow was already on his physiognomy. Lin asked Tan Chen who broke the vessel with the medicine. The boy immediately pointed a finger at one of the guys. Lin exclaimed that he would pay for everything and hit him in his face with all his might. Another guy screamed and asked them to stop. He asked why they hit him, to which the guy replied that he would not only beat him, but destroy him. How he dared to hit a person close to him. The guy was lying on the floor replied that he did not understand him. He had no goal to harm him. How he could harm him. So, Lin asked to ask him what he did. The medicine Tan Qian, intended for his grandfather, was destroyed by him. Lei asked if he did it. The guy folded his hands in front of him and with an impending gaze replied that he did not know whose medicine it was. Then Lei now attacked this guy, and he asked how he dared to touch the thing of the Hao family. Lin asked to stop. Now that the vessel is broken and this has affected the treatment of grandfather, what they should say. The guys began to immediately ask for forgiveness and explain that they really did not want to offend them. This is just a misunderstanding. Lei said how that there was money for medicines. They are both adults, and he asked to forgive them this time. Lin explained that Tan Qian was like a younger brother. From this moment, if they dare to harm him again, he will not stand aside. The guys replied that they understood everything and began to run away more. Tan Qian said that Lin looks calm and kind. Who knew that he knows how to fight so excellently? Looking at his strength and equipment, it is obvious that he was practiced a lot. Lin said that the guys of the Lei Biao family are really terrible. He learned them and will now see if they dare to do this in the future. Lin asked Tan Qian not to be afraid of them. He will not forgive them if they laugh again to harm him in the future. Tan Qian thanked his brother Lina for his help. The guy replied that it was simple, and he asked to take the money that he left Lei Biao. Tan Qian asked the guy if he had previously engaged in kung fu. The guy explained that when he was in the army, he was engaged in boxing and kung fu, but very superficially. A year ago, he resigned and has since been engaged in antiques. And then the next day came. Tan Qian just woke up. Lin approached him and handed over some vessel. After that, Tan Xiana called. It was Mo Wei. She asked what he was doing all these days. He forgot that he has a meeting today. The boy thought that he completely forgot about the charity that would take place at school. He said that of course he remembers this. She asked whether he was free today in the afternoon and asked to come to school to discuss everything. Tan Qian thought that even though the money has already been collected, they are so passionate about this. In addition, they prepared it for so long, put so much effort. It will be embarrassed if he refuses. Here he lived a wonderful 3 or 4 years. Since then, so much has changed. He was afraid that he would no longer return here. A guy was sitting on a chair. Chen Hu Hai Xianjun was nearby. The guys noticed Tan Qian and were very happy about him. They asked how he ended up here. The boy explained that he had come here on business. The guys began to communicate with great interest. Then, suddenly, someone knocked loudly on the door. The guys immediately turned towards the door. In front of them stood the director of Zhao and the head of Yang. The boy asked what they were doing here. The man asked student Tang Qian why he had not come to them before. The director explained that the university knows that he has problems, and they will do everything possible to help him, and he will not have to abandon the university. The leader said that if not for Miss Mo Wei, they would not have learned about it. In addition, he has bad grades if he abandons this, then all his efforts invested in the past 4 years of training will be in vain. Tang Qian replied that he had to do this due to the fact that his father was very ill and he had to take care of him. The leaders said that they would help with his father's medical accounts. The boy was very surprised by this. The man explained that, in view of his excellent performance, the university decided, at the end of recommending him to graduate school. From today, he officially invites him back to the university for further training. The guys were very surprised that he would be recommended to graduate school. The director told the guy that this is exactly what the university offers, and now the problem is solved. Tan Chien thanked the director for such an opportunity, but said that he had already forgotten most of the educational material, and even if he continues to study, that he was very behind. The man asked him not to worry. Miss Mo Wei can help to catch up with all the material that he missed. The girl said that, of course, it would help. If he has questions, let him ask her. Does he know that in fact the fundraisers have ended and they have already raised 70,000 yuan for him? The boy was very surprised. Is it really true? He smiled and thanked the girl for that. The director said that they were happy to help. Still, he is a student of their university. How could they just stand aside and observe? The director asked when he would return. Tang Qian replied that he had not yet decided to go to the university, but in any case he was very grateful to him. The guy thought that if they asked before, he would have agreed to their proposal, but now having a divine doctor in his head, as well as X-ray vision, he did not need to receive a diploma. The director said that he hopes he would carefully think, and if he has problems, he can turn to them. The girl asked Tan Chien whether he heard about that incident of mass poisoning of children. He used the powder from detoxification, and they learned about it. They became interested in them and found out that he had left his studies at the university, so they helped to raise the amount for medical expenses and his father. They wanted to make a surprise. Tan Chien thought that it turned out they showed such enthusiasm when they learned about the powder from detoxification. This case attracted the attention of the university, so if he returned, it will be in the hands of the university. Wei Wei said that only they are here, and now he can say who this old divine doctor has a recipe for that medicine of detoxification. Tan Qian apologized and replied that he promised him to the doctor of Chinese medicine in no case to reveal his personality. The girl lowered her head down and said that she would not insist on it. Tan Qian called Professor Van and asked if the head doctor of the hospital agreed. This is very good. In this case, the application for a kidney transplant will leave her father, and he was told that if he decides to return to the university, he could go through an internship in the central hospital. At the end of training, he will be able to continue to work there. This is one of the best in the city. Tan Qian replied that he was still thinking about it. Then he apologized and said that he had to go to work. Lin, his sister, and Ersyun were glad that he was already here. The boy thought why she was here, really because of him. He asked Miss Chen why she was here and what she needed. The girl replied that she came to thank him for that day. Tan Chien was very surprised by this. Ersyun explained that at that time he helped Miss Chen with the choice of jade stone on which she later put. The girl said that she then opened him, and it turned out that there was a very beautiful jade, so she came to thank him. The boy replied that he had already forgotten about it. He just helped a little, and she does not need to thank him. Chen asked when he was finishing work, and if he is free, she invites him to come to dinner as gratitude. Tan Qian said that there was no need for this, but the girl looked at him with an imploring look, and he could not refuse. The boy explained that he would soon close the store, and he asked to have dinner after he closes it. And now they were already sitting in a cafe. The girl asked for a long time if he had, for a long time. He must have put on many stones. Tan Qian replied that he puts on stones for less than a month, but she would not believe him. The girl looked intently into his eyes and replied that, of course, she would not believe. Then she suddenly grabbed her stomach with her hands. She apologized and told the guy that she urgently needed in the restroom. Tan Qian thought that Miss Chen's pain in the abdomen seems to have probably because of some kind of illness. The girl returned and apologized to him. The boy asked if she was in order. Chen replied that everything was fine. She looked very bad. Droplets of sweat flowed down her face. The boy thought it was not normal. A healthy person should not have a stomach. She should have a chronic disease. This cannot be postponed, and she needs to start treatment as early as possible. The girl lowered her head down and asked how he found out. Is he really a doctor? Tan Qian explained that he knew the medicine a little and watched its condition and symptoms. But we can say that her disease at the initial stage will be easy to cure. But the more she starts her, the more difficult it will be to cure. Chen replied that he was right, and she recently began these pains. She did not think that the disease could be so complicated. Tan Qian told the girl that if she trusts him, he could advise her of Chinese medicine. Chen exclaimed that, of course she trusts him, and I asked what kind of Chinese medicine it was. She promised to pay for him. The boy said that it is not necessary, since he would give medicine for free. How he will prepare pills, she can pick them up. The girl immediately thanked the guy. Meanwhile, Sister Ihon stood in front of 2 jars, and looking at them surprised how beautiful it was. Tan Qian asked my sister Ihon why she was so late here. The girl explained that she went out to take some things and recently returned. He asked if she brought these 2 jugs. Icon explained that these are a couple of small jugs for storing bird feed, and they are magnificent. Emperor Xuande from the Ming dynasty liked them. He used them at court. They also had great value. They depict white-blue birds in the style of Xuande time. 700,000, and at the end was sold for 12 million yuan. It was 5 years ago, and now it costs even more. Tan Qian was surprised by the values of this thing and asked for how much she bought it. The girl replied that she agreed with the boss all day, and he agreed to sell him to her for 800,000. Her father also likes small antiques and she wants to give him a birthday. Tan Qian said that this is a big surprise and her father would definitely like it. Tan Min told my sister Ihan that something seems wrong here. Ikon began to worry and asked what was not so. The boy explained that as far as he remembers the jug in the middle of the drawing, the word day should be depicted, but it is not here. Is it wrong? Icon replied that during the Ming dynasty, the word D wrote in this way. Therefore, if the symbol has a line in the middle, then this is not a problem. Only masters can identify that this is a fake. He recently began to do this, so it's normal that he was mistaken. Over time, he will understand what she has in mind. Tankind decided just in case to check it using an X-ray vision, and so he tensed and finally saw. If you look closer with his X-ray vision, you can notice that this jug is completely different. There is a great difference between them that this may mean. He asked my sister Ikon where she bought these birds for birds. The girl explained that she bought them from a person who recently opened the antique store. He is called Nabayosian. Tan Qian asked if she was familiar with the owner of this store and how she found out that he has them. The girl replied that she was not quite familiar with him. A friend of him told her. Supposedly, the owner of the store has a couple of blue-white jugs for storing bird food. She immediately went to see them, then asked if he could sell them to her, and they agreed for a long time about the price. Does he think that something is wrong with them? The boy replied that he was not sure, but he thinks that she was better off to take them to an expert for a detailed examination. It is especially better to examine that jug. And then the next day came. Uncle Hai began to consider a jug. Then he exclaimed that this vessel of good quality and everything is in order with it. It looks like a job of Xuande time. Ikon said that he heard that Uncle Hai said that everything was in order with them. Does he still have doubts? Tan Qian asked Uncle Hai to look at him again. After his uncle looked, he said that it was strange. The girl again asked her uncle what was wrong. The man replied that this jug is definitely another. In the light, he gives him a slightly different color, but otherwise he does not differ from his pair. Lin also asked to look. Then he said that Uncle Hai is right. This vessel is not as bright as the previous one, and it seems that it is not a pair of the first vessel. The girl exclaimed in bewilderment how this is possible. Uncle explained that he has a friend who collects such small antiques, and he suggested asking him to come and help. Ikon immediately agreed and asked to call the expert to check him. And now the man was already looking at this jug. He said that this vessel for storing bird food was made in the middle of the Qin dynasty, but it was made in an ordinary furnace. Ikon was very worried and was surprised, And the man said that at least one of them is a fake, the other is really good. He collects such a porcelain antiques, and if she wants to sell it, he will buy. The girl, lowering her head, replied that she did not sell him. The man said that in this case he would not insist. Ihan was upset and said that this is all because of her greed. Lin asked, "Is it really a fake?" Now it's quite easy to sell a thing in the kit, and later it turns out that this is a fake. He asked where she found out about this antiques. The girl explained that someone said, as if Mr. Zhou, the owner of the store, has a couple of blue-white jugs of Xianda. At first he showed one jug, then they agreed on the price. And in the evening, he brought another. Now the blue-white porcelain of the time of Xianda is very popular. A couple of such jugs cost at least 1,000,000 yuan, but he said that he would sell for 800 yuan. Lin exclaimed that it was not necessary to buy him in the Nabaoshan store. Doesn't she know what people are talking about Zhou's family, about his father and his son? Father and son, both deceivers. They use any tricks for deception, and they are both very smart. Tan Qian asked, "The Zhou family, father and son, is the same son, who was called Zhou Xiaobin?" Lin replied that yes, it was he. At that time, he lost to him. He told her that she should be careful because he would want to take revenge. Tan Qian thought that they had deceived Ikon's sister. Maybe it is because of him. Can Zhou Xiaobin want to take revenge on him in this way? Ihon realized that they were scammers. She explained that he was kind and did not look like a bad person. Lin said that when he brought the first jug, he was real. When it got dark on the street in weak light, he showed her the second. In addition, she wanted to get as soon as possible, and he took advantage of this. Then the girl remembered that when she looked at the second jug, he suddenly turned off the electricity. Although he had a place with a small light, the tension was unstable and the light was dim. Tan Qian said that in the case of disconnection of the light, exactly the trick of his son's father. She should first learn more about the seller or go there with Uncle Hay. If he were there, they would not have sold her fake. He told my sister Ihon that she immediately needs to make a refund. Otherwise, contact the police and see how they dare to deceive others. Lin said that he still does not know the majority in this area. Having bought a fake, he can only blame his vision. In the end, the fact that the real antiques is only oral communication. Ihon said she would go home. She asked Tan Qian to take care of the store and said that she would not be in the store for the next 2 days. Tan Qian realized that the girl was very upset. Uncle Hai exclaimed that then he would also go and said that they would see him tomorrow. Lin also went about his business. Tan Qian asked him to stay a couple of minutes. He asked what the guy wanted to say. Tan Qian explained that Zhou Xiaobin and his father deceived his sister Ikon, and he does not think that they should leave everything as it is. Lin asked how he would return the money then, because this is impossible. The boy explained that the other real jug should have remained with those deceivers. Perhaps he will send someone to sell him to him for a high price or something like that. It doesn't matter that he earns in this way. Tan Qian asked how much Sister Ikon paid. The guy replied that if they sell them at the auction by a couple, then they will put 1,000,000 yuan the minimum price. Well, if they sell one at a time, then everyone will cost 400. So, he will lose 500,000. Tan Qian thought that even if his sister was not poor, this does not mean that she could spend 500 yuan for a fake. How much time is needed to open such an antique store to earn so much money? Lin said that if this pair was sold at auction for 1,000,000 yuan, not counting the commission, taxes, and other payments, ultimately, they will receive from 800 to 900,000, and now they sold one jug for such a price and made a lot of profit. Tan Qian said that there should be a way to teach it, for example, return all the money. Then suddenly he went to the guy and said that he had one idea. He whispered it in his ear, and Lin exclaimed that it would be wonderful. Tan Qian said that now they need to find the one who will play them in this show. Lin promised to ask his friends. According to their plan, the actor must play his role perfectly. Since they will not return the money, then they will teach them the same way and pay it. Lin said that he agreed with a friend and he would help. It is not connected with the business of antiques, so that Zhou Xiaobin and his father definitely do not know him. Tan Qian exclaimed that this was excellent and asked him to behave as a rich collector who wants to open a private museum and who needs a lot of different antiques and cultural relics. Since in a pair of jugs are very expensive, he will definitely come to them to take their jug. While they believe that they will have a huge profit, they will find a way to pick up their jugs, so they will fall into a good thought out trap. Tan Qian said that in order not to be suspicious, he must enter the store first and choose several antiques. Behave like a person who wants to buy them at a higher price. The Zhou family thinks that a rich man came to them, who can be foolish and immediately begin to work. Lin exclaimed that this is a great plan, and now several days have passed. Tan Qian sat behind the counter with a thoughtful look. The guy who approached him asked if he was like the antiques. He opened the box and asked to look at it. Tan Qian exclaimed that it was simply incredible, and he thought that Brother Lin and the Zhou family want to sell another couple of blue-white jugs. One of them is a fake, and the other is real. I asked how much it costs. The man replied that 700,000. Tan Qian asked the man would sell him if he pays 100,000. Suddenly, the man began to run to the exit. He asked the guy does not understand. But Tan Qian exclaimed that he still wants to deceive people. He already knows what he will do next. Then a guy entered the room and said that he heard that they had a blue-white jug schwanda. He would like to buy it. The boy replied that if he wants, he would sell him for 1 million. Then the guy went to the exit calling him crazy. He decided that the guy really went crazy. Tan Qian, putting his head in his hand, sighed heavily. He scored Lin and asked if he was going according to plan, whether someone suspected him, and then 2 men entered the room. One of them said that they finally came. Tang Qian looked at them, thought it should be him, the whom they are waiting for. He greeted men and asked what they needed. I thought to myself that the performance was beginning. The man asked in the store Li his boss, Miss Fu. Tang Qian replied that the sisters Ikon were not here, and she would not be for a while. He may ask him, since he controls the store yet. The man was very surprised and confused. He explained that he should discuss important things with her, but she is not here, and this is a big failure. Tan Qian asked what was important, and he said that they can tell him this, and he would give her. The man began to explain that his boss recently bought a couple of white jugs for storing bird food in their store. He would like to talk to her and find out if she can return them to them. He promised to pay more. Then the boy asked whether he had in mind the blue-white jugs of Xiande time. So the owner of the store, Nabao Xunzhouji, the man replied that it is he. He talked about a pair of small porcelain vessels, whether they are in the store now. Tan Qian replied that they were here. Sister Ikon specially ordered him. If someone wants to buy them, the price should be appropriate. The man replied that Miss Fu paid 800 yuan for this couple of jugs. He will return the entire amount and will also pay an additional 10,000. Tang Qian apologized and said that the difference is between that price and that they said, rather great and apologizing that he could not sell them at this price. The man was very surprised and asked for how much she wants to sell them. Tan Qian replied that she wants 1 million for them. The man was very surprised and asked when he managed to rise so much. This is 200,000 more. Why is it so expensive? Tan Qian asked, isn't that what my sister bought from them? This is a jug for storing bird feed used during the reign of Emperor Xuande. In addition, it is made by the furnace of that time so that it is by nature very valuable. The man replied that this was true. The boy thought that he could not say that it is not worth that kind of money. The man said that the price was too high. In the end, it did not cost so much when she bought it from him. He asked the young man to wait for her and the price would decrease. Tan Qian replied that he agreed, and in this case he will call my sister Yihan. The man said that he would wait, and the boy began to call the girl. He greeted Econ's sister and allegedly explained what was happening. He explained to the man that my sister Econ said that the minimum price of 900,000 and there would be no lower price lower. The man was then covered and agreed to buy them for this price. To himself, he thought that the proposed price was 1.5 million. Even if he bought it in 1 million, he will receive 500,000. The man answered the guy that he agreed. He promised to write out a check if everything was in order. When the guy began to leave, he was asked to wait a bit. Tang Qian realized that the matter has already been done. The man thought that this real jug and another fake, which he laid. He promised the guy to write out a check, but Tan Qian asked to wait a bit. For a guarantee, he asked to immediately go to the bank to finish payment. The man laughed, deciding that the guy still did not believe him. He agreed to do it anywhere. Tan Qian thought to himself that he really could not leave this. He thought they would not find a place. The boy held a box of vessels in his hands. The man exclaimed that the payment has already been completed and now he can give them. Tan Qian, smiling, began to pass the box to the man. The man took the box and asked to look at them again. Tan Qian was a little scared. After all, if he looks, he will know everything. The boy immediately grabbed the phone urgently. In the man's pocket, the phone rang and he stopped. He answered the call and said that he would be soon. The man asked him to be waited. Then he told the guy that he would go first and thanked him. Tan Qian asked Lin, calling him, how everything went. The guy replied that everything went like clockwork. As soon as Joe arrived, their people pointed to the fake and not only refused to buy, but also scolded him. Joe Jakai was so upset and was so offended, and he watched the door as he was humiliated. Tan Qian called the man an old deceiver and was glad that he had finally got what he had, mercy. Zhou Xiaobin, in turn, was very angry and realized that it should be the trick of that guy. He did not think that that guy would be so cunning and would spend them. This is not the end, and she must take revenge on him and return the money. He told his father that the guy's name is Tan Qian, and he had already insulted the Lei family. Later, he goes to Lei and tells them they will find out if he can deal with Tan Caian. The man agreed and said that they would not go to him. The guy rushed as soon as possible to look for Lei's brother. When he found him, he asked him in a hurry whether he was in a hurry. He began to explain that something was very serious. Tan Qian sold fake goods and held them, after which he lied and took 1 million yuan. Does he not have money for him? Now he has a reason to return this money. Lei asked if he had sold a false product, lied to him, and took 1 million. The guy replied that of course the truth. Would he lie to him? Lei, after these words, hit him in the face and exclaimed that he had deceived him last time. It was he who said that if he had a jade of better quality, he misinformed him, and he offended the line. How he dared to offend someone like Lindsay Howe. The guy began to cry and said that he did not lie to him. Lei asked him not to get him into his affairs and not think that he would do something for his sake. He asked not to forget that he is a deceiver and knows how many times he deceived people for the sake of money. Zhou Xiaobin was very upset, and Lei asked him to fail from here rather. The guy immediately ran out like a beaten dog. Tang Qian, meanwhile, called someone. He did not understand why my sister Ihon did not answer. She has not been in the store for several days, and he wanted to tell her good news. The guy immediately ran to her to personally check. He is sure that Uncle Hai knows the address of his sister Icon. Therefore, I decided to go and find out personally. When he came, the guy was explained that she was hospitalized. Tan Qian immediately began to ask which hospital she was. He was very worried about what happened to Icon's sister. Icon asked Tan Qian why he was here. The boy asked her not to get up, but just to lie. The girl said that this is not so serious, and she just feels some weakness. Tan Qian noticed that the girl's face is pale, weak voice, and has all the pronounced symptoms. This patient has a severe form of colds. Since it is just a cold, it can use the usual Yuan medical soup. So the reason is a severe form of a cold, and since this cold means everything will be in order. Ikon said that this is an ordinary cold even at her and not as good health as when she was young. Each time she picks up a cold, she feels much worse than if an ordinary person got sick. Tan Qian thought that the real cause of her disease is that she was deceived by the father and son of the Zhou family. This led her to such a state. The boy asked my sister Ihon to look here. The girl was surprised and asked where he got this vessel from. Tan Qian explained that this is real. They returned the fake Zhou Jikai, the old deceiver. He paid them 900,000 for him. This money is now on this card. The girl was surprised. Did Mr. Zhou really return the money? Tan Khan exclaimed that he was a terrible deceiver, how he could just give money. Therefore, he fell into their trap, invented by him and Lin Sihao. Ihon said that he was incredible. Now that they guys helped her restore justice, she is so happy to feel so relaxed. But she cannot accept this money. She already has a lot of money. Because he, the one who helped return it, so she will be glad if he leaves them for herself. The boy replied that no, they took her money so they are her. Ikon said that she could take 800,000 that she paid and he would leave the rest of the money. And about the vessel, she would not ask for this. She does not like it when people are so deceiving, so she can make this vessel. The boy did not argue with her and agreed. Then he headed towards the store and saw his brother Lin. The guy was looking for him just. I was very happy to see Tan Qian. Lin explained that the medicine that he gave his grandfather really helped. He is getting better and better. Someday he will invite him to them for dinner. Tan Qian was glad to help them. He said that my sister Ihon refused to accept 100,000 in this vessel. He thinks the most important work was done by his brother Lin, so he must take them. Lin replied that he helped his grandfather and he was grateful that he had helped him. How he can accept money? He knows that his family is in a difficult situation, so they asked them to take them to himself. He asked what the guy would do with this vessel. Tan Qian replied that he was thinking of selling him. Lin asked not to rush to sell right away. He will contact him if he can find a good buyer, and he will be able to sell him at a good price. Tan Qian thanked the guy smiling in response to him. And then the next day came. Ikon was in a good mood. She said that she was not here for so many days and she missed him so much. The store was closed for so long, time to start working. Tan Qian asked if she was better. The girl replied that after his visit, she became much better. Tan Qian asked the girl who was this elderly gentleman. She explained that it was Uncle Gao. He once worked in their antique store. He worked with her father for 30 years. Now she invited him to their store to help. Ihon said that Uncle Gao is an experienced appraiser of goods. He especially evaluates the antiques. Then I introduced my uncle with Tan Cyan. She already talked about him. He is a rising star in this business. Uncle replied that this was good. The boy is young and promising. Tan Qian greeted him. Sister Ikon turned to the guy and said that she wanted to ask him something. Tan Qian asked what exactly. The girl explained that that day he immediately saw that something was wrong with one vessel. She is interested in how exactly he defined this from the very beginning. Tan Qian asked how this could be. He intuitively realized that something was wrong, so he offered to check it. How could he know exactly about it? I thought to himself that he could tell her that he has an X-ray vision, and he could see that the edges of the porcelain of fakes look much newer. Icon replied that she always seems to her that he was very hidden. In fact, she thinks that he is not a beginner in this matter, perhaps even an expert. Otherwise, he could not win with that big stone. Tan Qian said that he was not hiding, and this is true. But the last time he was just very lucky. He has no experience or special skills at all. Icon replied that he was probably just very lucky. In their business, luck is very important. The girl explained that now Uncle Gao is looking after the store, and she asked if he would go with her to choose antiques in the evening. The boy immediately thought and asked where exactly they would go. And then the girl brought him to some new, interesting place. She explained to the guy that Mr. Yu's boss is called Bao Yangia. He is one of those merchants who do not have a specific store. He himself buys and sells antiques. When they approached the store, the girl asked Mr. Yu, at home. They were immediately met by a man and greeted the girl asked Miss Fu to go inside. She asked whether the things that he said on the phone. Mr. Yu replied that they were here and he was waiting for her to come. He invited her to look at them. Then the girl asked what was so good in them. These are simply not processed factory goods that have no collectible value. The man laughed and he replied that Miss Fu's vision was still as incredible. Also looking at these things, she understood everything. All good goods behind and he will show her them right now. He offered to start looking at it. Last time, she said that this type of porcelain would like. But so he worked to get him. The girl exclaimed that this is a bedding porcelain. At first glance, it looks pretty good. Mr. Yu replied that of course this porcelain was made specifically the kind as she wanted. If it turns out that this fake will immediately replace. Ihon said that the surface of the farmer is quite thick, and the internal texture of porcelain is also relatively old. Tan Qian thought that it looks good. At least it is not a fake. Ihon said that they were still good. During the time of the Chinese Republic, it was like a real ovens for firing a former dynasty. Mr. Yu confirmed that this porcelain of bed tone was created during the Chinese Republic, but they belong to the folk furnace, and therefore the collective value is quite high. She really liked this porcelain. Can she buy everything? Tan Qian thought that he did not understand anything in such matters. Mr. Yu told the girl that he called her today is not easy to recommend this porcelain, but also showing one incredible product. Ihon asked what kind of antiques this is. The man asked her to just follow him. He explained that here he wanted to show her and asked to look. The girl took her hands by the face when she saw what the man showed her. It was porcelain with a blue-white pattern. Mr. Yu explained to the girl that this was a real porcelain with a blue-white pattern, made of a real-time stove Sinlo kin. Tan Qian was also very surprised. Mr. Yu asked for forgiveness and said that he needed to answer the call, but for now, they can examine him. The man was delighted that they were considering him. He told the teacher Zhou that this time she would not slip away from him. This porcelain is a copy of the famous Su Fang. With her vision, she definitely recognizes him, but cannot distinguish him. He also left her in a room where she could not do anything. If she is with the guy who is the name of Tan Qian, then you need to be especially vigilant. This guy is a cunning and quite smart. Mr. Yu asked if he was worried that he would ruin everything. This guy is a beginner, and he knows almost nothing and there is no experience, so you just need to wait and they will receive money. The man asked not to forget that when it ends the money they would share in half. Everything is definitely in order with this, and he brought him good news. Tan Qian thought that at first glance this vessel is very elegant and majestic. Then, unexpectedly, the boy realized that everything was smooth and natural outside, but from the inside, the surface is quite new. The only one of a kind of porcelain, unlike the vascular pair where a fake was immediately visible. In this case, they cannot compare them. Ihon asked Tan Qian what he was thinking about this porcelain. Tan Qian was not sure. He said that there was not very good lighting. He cannot see for sure, but does not think that something is wrong with him. The girl said that this porcelain is really very good, and she does not see a problem. She saw almost the same porcelain vessel sold for 3 million. Tan Qian replied that it was in the place where all the goods were genuine, but in their case, it is difficult to say. Mr. Yu asked the girl in order Li. Ihon asked to transfer him. She cannot see him well in this room. The man began to be offended that Miss Fu did not believe him. She sees porcelain that she only takes both her and his time. In such a case, many people know about this porcelain vessel. He recently called him and wanted to buy him at a very attractive price. But they are in good relations with her, so if they want to buy immediately, then he will sell in just 1 million. Tan Qian told Mr. Yu to wait if he could. In the end, this is a valuable antiques. They must think carefully before giving an answer. Mr. Yu asked the boy only to listen to what he said. Are there any problems with this porcelain? He asked him not to carry nonsense and not mislead others if he himself does not understand. The girl explained to the man that Tang Qian said this was not from evil, and she said that she would buy that set of porcelain that he showed earlier, and if possible she invites a friend to help her and look at this vessel. Mr. Yu exclaimed that he would not go. That set of porcelain goes with this and nothing else. Icon replied that he literally recently called the price of those porcelain vases, and now she says that they are not sold. The man said that in this case either she buys them together or he would find another buyer. He does not think that he will not be able to find people who would like such a good thing as this porcelain. Tan Qian took the girl by the hand and said that everything is very clear, or they buy or not. He told my sister Ihan that it was better to leave and they do not need such a thing. The man began to ask the girl not to leave. If she does not agree with something, they can discuss all this again. Ikan asked the boy to wait for her here, and she would listen to what he wants to tell her. In any case, while she is here, she will not buy this porcelain vessel. Tan Qian agreed with her, but asked not to accept his proposal. Then, unexpectedly, his gaze changed and the guy froze in place. Tan Qian thought about something. He saw some object. It was as if something had changed in his head. He realized that the treasure was hidden in him, hidden porcelain, and very beautiful. One of the guys asked the guy what he was doing. All things in this house are antiques and do not touch it. Tan Qian replied that he was just looking. Suddenly, Miss Fu entered the room and told Tan Qian that they were immediately leaving. But the boy folded his arms over his chest and sighed. The girl asked what was wrong with this pot. Tan Qian explained that he wants to buy this red pot. It is rather smooth and neat. This pot is also very beautiful. He really liked it. Icon was surprised and replied that things like this can be bought everywhere. It is used to store cucumbers and sauerkraut. The boy explained that this differs from those that others sell. In addition, it is sold here, so it may be an old antiques. Mr. Yu noticed that he liked this pot. He explained that his grandmother used him to store cucumbers and sauerkraut. He can sell him at a discount in just 20,000. Miss Fu began to be indignant. After all, he himself said that this pot for storing sauerkraut. This is not even antiques. Is it not too expensive? The man replied that antiques are not simple things with a price tag. What she buys in the antique store is what she wants. Since she wants to buy, he can sell. Tan Tian told Mr. Yu that he would buy it for 20,000, but on one condition. The man became interested and asked what. The boy explained that he would buy this pot for 20,000, but then he would sell the set of porcelain that Icon's sister wanted. Icon asked the guy not to do this because it is not worth it, but he asked the girl to be silent. She calmed down a little. Tan Xian told the man that in general, this is equivalent to buying that set with an increased price for 20,000. Then he told my sister Ihan that they were leaving. The man began to run after the guy and asked him not to be angry. This is a business. Then Tang Qian asked if he agreed. Mr. Yu replied that he agreed and the guy could pick up the pot. Tan Qian looked at him and smiled pretty. And now the man handed him the promised pot. Miss Fu said that this store finally had new products. Why did he want this pot so much? Really, only because of a conversation with Mr. Yu. This pot is not worth so much money at all. Although she bought that set of porcelain, she overpaid a large amount. Tan Qian said that he really overpaid his real value, but he just liked him. Meanwhile, Mr. Yu spoke with someone on the phone that this did not work. Ikan said that she would need to look at him again. He is afraid that if she invites other people with her, he will not be able to deceive her. And he was right, because the guy whose name was Tan Xian intervened. And when Fu liked that porcelain vessel, the guy convinced him not to buy and misleads her. However, he cannot believe that this guy is so kind and naive. He liked the pot for storing cucumbers and sauerkraut, and he bought it for 20,000 yuan. It just went at the same time with the porcelain of the bedtone that he gave him. In the end, this turned out to be a good deal. He asked the guy to continue to watch them, and if this does not work, let him come up with another way. They must pay, and it doesn't matter in what way. The guy replied that he understood him. He asked not to worry, as they would not slip away from him. Meanwhile, Tong Qian held in his hands a solvent for paint and sang a song. He began to give a brighter appearance to the vessel that he acquired. After that, this solvent showed the true color of the vessel. The guy realized that he was right. That's what a vessel is, really. Miss Fu recorded something in the magazine. Her gaze fell sharply on the vase, which was bought by Tan Qian. The girl's eyes lit up. The boy asked my sister Ihan to evaluate this. What kind of porcelain it is and how much it costs. Icon replied that it was a porcelain tank. If it is genuine, you can get millions for it. She is simply priceless. Tan Qian asked what kind of porcelain tank. Icon explained that it received such a name because of its round upper part, which looks like a helmet. This is the most favorite collector antiques. Tan Qian asked her sister Icon how she was this porcelain tank. Can he be genuine? The girl replied that she was not sure, but she definitely looks old. Once her family had a smaller porcelain tank, which was sold for more than 1.5 million. The price of this antiques will definitely be higher. Tan Qian was very surprised. This is such a lot of money. Sister Ihan asked where he got it from. The boy laughed and asked if she really doesn't know. He asked her to look closer. The girl asked how she could know this. She had never met him before. Then Tang Qian explained that this is the painted pot that he bought then. Ikon was very surprised, and she exclaimed that it was really surprising. How he could find out. Did he really have incredible eyes? Tang Qian asked his sister Ikon if she still believes that he should not buy him for 20,000 yuan. The girl replied that, of course, there is, in this case, he would definitely help out more. She offered to hurry and take him to Uncle Hai. And then the girl explained to his uncle that this is a porcelain tank with a Jikin design and bright colors in an exquisite style. Uncle said that it should be made in the furnace of that time. Lin exclaimed that it was incredibly beautiful, and he explained that in their days such antiques are rare. Such amazing works can only be found in the National Museum. Uncle said that based on the forms of this porcelain tank, we can say that this is a work of art of time Xianlan made in the middle of the Qing dynasty. It is so rare. The man asked Tan Qian how he received him. Then Icon went to her uncle and said that she herself would tell him about it. And then the girl began to tell how everything happened. Lin was very surprised that it cost only 20,000. It's just incredible. He called the boy the legend of all the legends in the history of antiques. The boy replied that this was just a blind luck. Mr. Zhou should be chuckled. Who is so stupid that it will spend so much money on a pot for storing sauerkraut? A man entered the room and exclaimed that it was a white-blue porcelain tank. He asked Uncle Hai if he was selling him. Lin replied that this was Tang Qian Antiques. He brought him. The man asked Uncle Hai whether this antiques is genuine. Uncle replied that, and he checked him. It is made in a furnace of that time. Then the man handed the boy his business card. He explained what is the manager of the auction company for ancient arts, and his name is Chen Haifen. His porcelain is a very valuable thing. If he entrusts him with their auction, it will be very popular, and he asked if he was interested in this. Tan Chen apologized to Mr. Chen and replied that he had not yet thought about it. Chen asked him to think about it. He and his uncle can be sure that he will not allow them to lose money. He will attract as many people as possible to this product and set an excellent price. Tan Chen agreed and smiled slightly. The girl asked the guy whether he was going to sell this porcelain. After all, it is made in the stove of the time of Xianlun. It is very rare. Tan Qian replied that he definitely wants to sell him. Ihan said that she knows that his family urgently needs money. If he sells it at an auction, he can and sell it at a high price, but it will take a lot of time, take the money from the auction. In addition, he will have to pay large taxes and commissions. Tan Qian said that he also thought about it. Icon asked not to worry. Uncle Hai has many friends in this business. He will help him find a buyer. The price will not be low and there will be no commission. A girl with a man entered the room. She asked if he was Mr. Tan. The boy looked at her and replied that it was he. The girl greeted and said that her name is Jung Siyuan. They are workers of the auction company of ancient art, and she is very glad to meet. They immediately shook hands. The girl introduced her colleague Zhao Xiana. She told Mr. Tan that she probably already knows why they came. The boy replied that they were here because of the porcelain tank. He apologized and said that he decided not to sell him at the auction. Then Zhang asked him not to doubt the auction. He may be sure that they can help to agree. Their goal is simple. They want to sell porcelain at the highest price. Zhao Sheng explained that as soon as they trust their company, it could be calm. Their company is one of the 3 largest auction companies in Guangzhou. She is quite famous and never had any problems. They do everything they need to sell the seller's goods at a good price. Tang Qian apologized and replied that he urgently needed money, so he could not wait long for the goods to sell at the auction. The girl exclaimed that he wants to get money as early as possible. This is easy to solve, and they can make an advance payment. Tang Qian was surprised that they could pay in advance. Jiang said that they do not pay for ordinary things in advance, but his product is very rare, therefore the company can meet him. Then the boy asked exactly how much prepayment would be. Zhang replied that to determine the prepayment, he needs to send this porcelain vessel for an assessment. Tan Chen said that if he has to send him for research to the company, then let him forget about it. But the girl asked him to wait and asked to let her discuss this with the company. Then she introduced the master sent by the company, and she asked to show them a vessel. Tan Qian brought the vessel to men, and they began to evaluate it. They nodded their heads to the girl as if letting something to understand. Jiang said that after discussing, they decided to make an advance payment of 600,000. Tan Qian began to think about what he was offered. Then he went to this vessel and began to take it. Zhang exclaimed that this is just the initial payment. The full cost will be much more. Tan Qian replied that he was worried that the prepayment is too small. Jiang asked him to wait. She said she would call and ask the company. The girl went away and began to call the manager. She asked him what to do. Then she told the guy that the company offers him $1 million. Tan Qian replied that the prepayment should be $1.5 million, otherwise he will find another buyer. Without thinking twice, the girl exclaimed that they agreed to $1.5 million. And then the guys began to make paper, and they gave her for the signature of the guy. Tan Qian signed the documents. Jiang immediately handed the check to him. He could not believe that there was $1.5 million. I could not believe that he immediately received such a large amount. Zhang said that the auction will be held this fall, and they still have a couple of months. The process will take a maximum of 3 months. They will definitely sell it at a good price. Tan Qian exclaimed that then he would wait for good news. Zhang said that they would take a porcelain tank. The girl wished the guy a good day. Miss Fu congratulated Tan Qian. And did he ask him not happy about this? The boy replied that of course was glad, and he asked in the evening to call Uncle Hai and his brother Lina to dine together. The girl exclaimed that she was just joking. Everyone was busy with work and there is no need to invite guests. But Tang Qian replied that it was very important. He called his mother and she asked if there was enough money. A second cousin and cousin helped to collect 100,000 yuan. If this is not enough, then she offers to sell their house. A couple of people want to buy it, and they are ready to pay 300,000. Tan Qian asked his mother not to do it. After all, they are now rich, and he just got $1.5 million. Mom asked not to scare her, but the boy replied that it was true, and he would give her 300 yuan. And for 100,000 she will be able to buy all the necessary medicines. The rest can be used as you have to. He asked not to worry because now he can earn enough money. And now Tan Qian was already in the hospital. His relatives were surprised by such a large amount. Tan Qian explained that this is only the initial fee and later they will pay him. Father said that he did not expect that having such a good son, he could now become carefree, since then the family relies on him. The boy replied that the daughter-in-law also did a lot of work, and without her, he could not take care of them. The girl said that she only helped a little, that he did it more seriously. Tan Qian conveyed something in the hands of the girl. He explained that this is 30,000 yuan for her. He had been thinking about it for a long time. It should be difficult to take care of his father all day. He said that he would hire a nurse who will take care of him so that she can relax. With this money, she will be able to pay for rent for the last month and find another place, closer. In the future, it will be convenient for her to come for her father. The daughter-in-law thanked the guy. He asked her to eat something delicious to strengthen the body and buy things for himself. If she does not have enough money, I asked just to tell him. The girl ran to him and began to hug. She exclaimed that she had never met such a good person like him. The daughter-in-law called Tan Qian very kind. Even when she met with his brother, he was not so kind to her. At that time, their family lacked money, so that she treated him well. Now there are no poverty problems, but she still feels how he is warm about her. The girl thanked the guy. Tan Qian replied that they were a family and did not need to be thanked. He offered to find a nurse. Besides, she needs to relax well today. And then the next day came. Tan Xianyan rang the phone. He was asked on the phone what he was doing and asked to come here immediately, as he should talk. The boy recognized the sister of Tao. She said that he asked his daughter-in-law to pay her for rent, and also said that she would move to another place. The girl asked if this was true. Tan Qian replied that the truth was already happening. He asked the daughter-in-law to pay for the rent. They owed so much, and now when they have money, they can repay the debt. The girl replied that she said there was no need to pay for rent, or he thinks that the house is too small and therefore they need to move out. Let it come then, and tell her directly. Tan Qian replied that now he was not quite suitable and he was at work. But the girl said that she really needed his help. Her leg hurts again, and badly. The boy was surprised that her leg hurts again. He promised to come soon. Meanwhile, his sister was in the room. She asked the guy why he was here. Tan Qian replied that Tao's sister called him. She said that she would not accept the rent. The girl replied that she did not know why, but earlier her family asked a fee every day. Tan Qian exclaimed that he would talk to her. He went to her door and began to knock. He asked whether she asked here. The girl immediately opened the door, delighted with his arrival. She said that she missed him very much. The boy asked if she was in order. Tao's sister asked if he really believed that her leg hurts. That medicine that he gave was cured his leg in one day, even there was no scars. Tan Qian asked why she was so with him. On the way, he ran into the pharmacy and took the medicine. The girl said that this is very touching. Then she apologized that she had lied to him. She exclaimed that it was her fault and said that she would pay for the medicine. She asked him to stay for dinner, as she herself prepared it. Tan Qian wanted to say about the rent, but the girl said that she would not accept payment. If he pays for rent, then she will pay his medical bills. I asked how much she needed to pay. Indeed, in their days, the visit to the doctor is very expensive. Tan Qian replied that he would not pay. But they will not rent a house, so she can rent to others. The girl exclaimed that he probably counts this house small. She can give a larger house with air conditioning. Tan Qian replied that this was not because he did not like her house. He just needs to find a place closer to the hospital so that his daughter-in-law can visit the hospital without difficulties. Tao said that in this case she would not force him, but he must promise that she would not forget her, and they will keep in touch. The girl asked if he agreed. The boy promised her this. Tan Qian called Dr. Huan and asked if there was good news about the application for the operation. The doctor replied that he understands how he was worried about his father, but he already told him that there were a lot of people who wanted such an operation. Therefore, the application was not accepted. The boy began to worry and asked what he means saying that the application was not accepted. The doctor explained that the results came. An application for his father's operation was not accepted. There is another patient whose operation was approved. Tan Qian exclaimed that after such effort as he could say that the application was rejected. There must be a mistake. Tan Qian did not stop screaming that this was definitely a mistake. The doctor asked him not to be angry because he understands that it is difficult for him to accept this, but he is sure that they will later have more opportunities. If a new kidney donor appears, they will fight for it to the end. Tan Qian exclaimed that he could pay another 500,000, and he asked the name of the patient who received a donor kidney. He will try to do something with him. He certainly did not fight for him. He could not help, otherwise there would be no such result. The doctor convinced him that this was not so. He tried as soon as he could, even if he knew the answer to his question. This is confidential information and he could not tell him that. He does not understand his condition, but the result cannot be changed. Are those whose application will not be accepted in the same situation? If he takes this opportunity from them, then they will not have hope. This is an honest competition. Everything depended on good luck. The boy apologized to Dr. Huan. He got angry and said a lot to him. Then he thanked the doctor, who said that he was sorry and he did everything he could. The girl saw the boy outstanding and asked if he was all right. He had a very pale face. Tan Qian answered his sister that everything was in order, but asked to pack things first. He said that he would look for a place closer to the hospital. The girl agreed and said that he did not need to worry about her. His work is very important, therefore, let not put it off. Tan Qian thought that he should not talk about it, and in vain to disturb her. In the past, in exchange for the disclosure of the secret of detoxification, Van Licia offered help, but they still did not succeed. Didn't they try at all? Tan Qian called Director Vaughn. He explained that he needed to discuss something important with her. The girl replied that she knew what he wants to talk about, and it is very difficult. She will not be able to explain everything on the phone and asked to come to the hospital. Tan Qian immediately agreed and said that he would come now. Director of Van, when the guy hung up, the phone was very thoughtful. And here is the building of the hospital. Tan Qian asked the girl what was happening. Didn't she promise to help him? Why they did not accept the application and where her help? Director Vaughn replied that of course she helped. She did everything possible. After a thorough study, she learned that of all patients, only his father's condition is critical and he is most suitable for this operation. The donor kidney should be given to his father, but she did not expect that another would take her. Tan Qian asked her to say the name of that patient. Director Van replied that she did not know who it was, but the matter is really strange, so she called him and wanted to talk about it. The boy asked whether his family was rich and influential since he bought this kidney. The girl replied that she did not know the personality of that person, but recently he was diagnosed with uremia and his condition was good. He had a lot of time left and he could wait for another donor kidney, but he took from those who really needed it. The boy told Professor Van that if she tells everything about this patient in detail, he will make the medicine detoxification and share with her. He will also ask the old Chinese doctor recipes for other drugs. Professor Van asked in surprise whether he really was a medicine. Tang Qian replied that he would give if she helps him with these two problems. Then he will cooperate with her. If she does not want to help, it's okay. He will find someone else. What else can he do for his father? The girl asked him not to worry. She cannot promise him, but she will try to find out everything from the authorities as soon as possible. The boy exclaimed that she was better off to hurry. His father could not wait long. The girl ran a look and replied that she understood everything. Suddenly, Professor Van asked the guy to wait a bit. Tan Qian immediately turned in her direction. The girl explained that she took a day off today and did not expect to meet him. What a coincidence! Mo Wei asked if he received the money that they collected for him. Tan Qian replied that they had received and thanked her. The girl said that she heard the director of Van talked about the problem with the application of the donor kidney. This time he was unlucky, but let him not despair, he will still have a chance. The boy exclaimed that this is not because of good luck, it is simply dishonest. Mo Wei asked what happened. The boy began to tell her everything that happened. She asked how this could happen at all. This is really dishonest. Tan Qian replied that they have money and power, he is just a poor student. How he can compete with them? But he is not going to give up. His dad will receive what he deserved. Mo Wei asked him not to give up since there should be some kind of way out. Tan Qian thought that God is on his side, and he has an incredible ability. Although he cannot make a medicine for his father, there must be a way. The girl told the guy that he should go to the university with her and she would give him a tuition fee. Tan Qian replied that he had not yet decided to continue his studies. Mo Wei said it doesn't matter that he would choose. This does not contradict the teachings in life. Live to teach more and more. The boy replied that in this case he would go. Mo Wei took his hand and they headed towards the door. They ended up in a huge building and sitting at a desk. Tan Qian asked the girl what she was doing in the hospital every day, whether it cares for patients. Mo Wei replied that she mainly helps various doctors. She had no experience in the field of medicine yet. They continued to communicate lively. Suddenly, Tan Xianya rang the phone. It was Zhao Su. He was surprised that the guy still remembers him. He heard that he came to the university and was with Mo Wei. Tan Qian asked not to carry nonsense, he just came to study, and he explained that she helps him with homework. Tan Qian offered him to have lunch together and said that he was treating. He said to Mo Wei that Chen Shu offers to have lunch together. If it is free, it can go with them. The girl replied that she was not invited, and apologizing, she said that she should not go. Tan Qian said that he was treating. She helped him like that, so that he invites her to have lunch to thank her. Then the girl replied that if he invites, why not? She agreed to go. Tan Qian was delighted with this. And then Mo Wei walked along the road with Tan Xian. The guys saw them and waved their hand. They exclaimed that they had not seen each other for a long time, and he knows how to return effectively. They asked Tan Qian not to forget to say hello to them. The boy smiled and asked him to follow him to treat them with dinner. One of the guys replied that no, because he already collects money for the treatment of his father. It is not so simple. He offers on the contrary to treat him. Tan Khan explained that the expenses for the treatment of his father are already covered so that he can calmly afford to treat them. Mo Wei said that Tan Qian is now a businessman. His father needed hundreds of thousands to pay for treatment, and he paid them all at once. The guys exclaimed that the boy grew up, and they said that now it means to treat him. They headed to the old familiar place, and they began to sit down at the table. Some red car parked on the street. A tall, fair-haired guy got out of this car. The guys at the table noticed that a tall, rich, and even such a handsome man appeared in front of them, who has such a porridge in his head that they came up with such a name to give the child. Tang Qian thought to himself that he remembered that Gao Fushui was a classmate of Mo Wei High School. He ran after her, and at the university, Mo Wei lowered her head down and closed her eyes. She crossed her arms over her chest and asked why he came. The guy explained that he was looking for her for a long time and she was here. There will be a small party tonight. Meeting of classmates. He said that everyone was waiting for her to come. Mo Wei exclaimed that he was lying again. Last time he also said that there would be a meeting of classmates, but no one came to her. The guy said that this Gao is such a liar. He put a lot of girls over the years of study, and someone generally made suicide because of him. Tan Xin would be surprised if Mo Wei agreed. She is smart and would not make such nonsense. The girl told the guy to go there himself. She has things to do with Tan Xian. He asked whether she is going to eat here. He booked a table at the hotel. Here is only fast food and it is harmful to health. One of the guys asked if he was blind. How is this fast food? Or it eats only selected products. The guy asked not to deny, because this is true. If he has money, then he will also eat like that. Everyday seafood and other things. But he is afraid that the guy cannot afford a couple of dishes, even if he has been working all his life. The boy exclaimed that they just did not need it. Gao asked even if they did not need it whether he could afford it. Mo Wei asked them to shut up. Tan Qian invited her first to dinner, so she asks him to leave, and he asks not to call her anymore, unless this concerns the real meeting of classmates. The girl turned, her head turned around and began to leave. Gao looked at Tang Qian with an evil look. He asked if he was Tan Qian. Is it true that Mo Wei agreed to have dinner with him? Tan Qian replied that it was really he, and that's true.